Chapter 3258. Chao Qian was very clear on how much strength he had used in this axe strike. At least 80% of his strength had been used. But this young lady in front of him, who looked like she was only 14 or 15 years old, had used her bare hands to block his attack. Bare hands. Bare hands. Even Jade Sky Sect Master was not able to block 80% of his attack with bare hands. Chao Qian's heart thumped hard. Could it be that, right from the start, he was wrong? This person who was personally invited by the monarch, her ability was really very strong? No, not right. This was totally different from what his son had said. Hadn't his son said that this young lass didn't have any ability and only knew how to use her beauty to seduce men, making men stand up for her? Chao Qian's heart was in a mess. Has the State Protector General's attack ended? The young lady's clear and sweet voice broke Chao Qian's shock and deep thoughts. Chao Qian suddenly raised his head as he met the young lady's face in a fluster. When he raised his head, he met Yi Qing Luo's pair of eyes which contained a gloomy coldness and a faint smile. He felt an icy cold electric current coursing through his four limbs. Then next it's my turn. The young lady's lips curled up brilliantly as her smile was like a blooming flower, peerlessly beautiful. That clear and sweet voice was filled with a joyful smile. Words that could be said. But it made the surrounding people's hearts inexplicably suffused with a chill. Chao Qian's heart had a ominous premonition. His heart was like a drum as it rumbled endlessly. Heh. The young lady laughed softly. At the same time, Chao Qian felt an intense numbing pain coming from his arms which were holding the huge axe tightly. At the next instance, his hands lost the strength to hold the huge axe. Dong! The huge axe crashed heavily onto the ground. The ground split open. The commoners cried out in shock as they dispersed in all directions. Chao Qian's eyes widened in shock as he stared at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. As though he couldn't believe it. This young girl was able to render him completely defenseless and powerless to resist in such a short period of time. The young lady's smile slowly grew wider. It set off that gorgeous face which looked like a poppy flower slowly blooming. She exuded a suffocating charm. Immediately after, a gust of wind slowly lingered around the young girl's body. Shortly after, it violently surged. As the wind blew, the gravel on the ground, the small items from the surrounding stalls, the trees, the houses, all of them made crackling sounds as they collided with each other. The sound was like a deadly symphony from hell. Chao Qian's heart surged with unprecedented fear. His heart felt like it was going to jump out of his throat. The corners of Yi Qing Luo's lips maintained a faint arc that seemed like a smile yet not a smile. A pair of calm and emotionless eyes stared fixedly at Chao Qian's increasingly terrified face. A dark red glow condensed on her slender and fair fingers. That dark red glow gradually enlarged on her fingertips. No, you can't. If you dare to kill me, His Excellency Monarch will not let you go, he won't. Chao Qian was so frightened that he could not speak coherently, his voice trembling. Yi Qing Luo shifted her vision from the red glow on her fingertips to Chao Qian. She grinned and chuckled. I won't kill you, don't be afraid. Her clear and sweet voice rang out in a leisurely manner. The young lady slowly raised her hand and waved it downwards towards Chao Qian. Chapter 3259. A high-pitched and urgent voice came from afar. The commoners cried out in shock as they fled towards the two sides of the street. They saw a huge wolf-shaped magical beast rushing over at high speed. After the magical beast charged over, a bright yellow figure jumped down from the magical beast's back and walked towards Yi Qing Luo. East Wave Monarch, why are you here? Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned when she saw the person who stopped her. Wasn't the person in front of her the East Wave Royal Palace, East Wave Monarch? Imperial Madam, please calm down. Calm down. East Wave Monarch was sweating profusely as he panted heavily while cupping his fists towards Yi Qing Luo to plead for leniency. Country Protector General's action is indeed a little too extreme. I will definitely punish Country Protector General for this matter. After East Wave Monarch finished his long string of words, he gasped for air. Apparently, he had rushed over to stop Chao Qian and Yi Qing Luo after he found out about the matter. East Wave Monarch's appearance made the surrounding people enter a state of shock. After they regained their senses, Various powerhouses all knelt down on one knee. Sir Monarch. When the commoners heard this loud and clear voice, they were so shocked that they all knelt down on the ground with a plop. In Nirvana realm, although the sects were the most respected and the royal family second, but in most people's eyes, the royal family was an existence which made people fearful. Like East Wave Monarch's holy face, ordinary powerhouses cultivators could hardly be seen a few times a year, not to mention the ordinary commoners. The surrounding crowd all looked at East Wave Monarch in a daze. Taking another look, East Wave Monarch's attitude towards Yi Qing Luo was extremely respectful. Recalling the scene where Yi Qing Luo blocked Chao Qian's attack barehandedly and counterattacked, Chao Qian had no way to resist at all. The surrounding crowd's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo had turned into reverence. This change was extremely obvious. Chao Qian, who had just escaped a calamity, was held up by his own soldiers as he panted heavily by the side. He deeply felt that the gazes which the crowd shot towards him seemed to be ridiculing him. Hearing East Wave Monarch's submissive tone, Chao Qian's eyes were almost spitting fire. How would Yi Qing Luo not sense Chao Qian's attitude? But looking at East Wave Monarch's sincere and apologetic face, Yi Qing Luo finally knew that she deserved to die as she slowly retracted her 5 fingers and retracted her aura. The East Wave sovereign heaved a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Emperor Madam. I did not handle this matter well. I apologize on behalf of the East Wave continent." Saying that, he bowed towards Yi Qing Luo. He stood up and looked in the direction of the crowd. "I know that I invited 2 helpers from other continents on my own initiative. It is understandable that you would question their strength." The East Wave sovereign spoke slowly, displaying the might of a sovereign. "Therefore, in front of everyone, I swear in the name of the ruler of the East Water continent, that I am willing to vouch for Madame D and young Master D. They are definitely the saviors of the East Water continent." As soon as he finished speaking, the East Wave sovereign's imposing gaze swept across everyone present. Then, he emphasized each word with dignity. "If that's the case, I hope that everyone will give me face and believe in my choice." The various powerhouses cultivators looked at each other in dismay. The commoners were already trembling under the pressure released by the East Wave sovereign. Their Lord Sovereign had already used his Lord's name to swear. Even if they still had some suspicions towards these 2 young men and young lady, so naturally they would not disrespect the Lord Sovereign. Star. Chapter 3260. Moreover, everyone had witnessed with their own eyes the scene of Yi Qing Luo blocking Chao Qian's attack barehandedly. The commoners all bowed their heads as they replied respectfully, "We believe in Monarch." Before they could finish their words, suddenly, a sharp and ruthless roar was heard. "Don't be fooled by them. This demoness isn't here to save the East Wave continent. She's here to destroy it." That coarse roar was heard hurriedly from afar. This sudden change made the surrounding commoners look towards the direction of the voice. The appearance of this voice, as compared to the appearance of the East Wave Monarch, it was even more attractive. The meaning conveyed by these words caused everyone to be alarmed. Destroy the East Wave continent? What does that mean? Not here to help the East Wave continent? How is that possible? This is the benefactor whom Sir Monarch had personally invited back. That's right, Sir Monarch has already appeared personally to vouch for them. So who is the one who is spouting nonsense here? The commoners were discussing fervently as their gazes swiftly searched for the direction where the voice came from. Bam! Only the sound of stumbling and knocking could be heard. A fat figure pushed through the crowd of commoners in front of him and squeezed his way forward. A few commoners were knocked onto the ground by this force as they cried out in pain. That fat figure's slits-like eyes stared fiercely towards Yi Qing Luo's direction, totally ignoring the commoners whom he had knocked down as he walked towards Yi Qing Luo and East Wave Monarch. When he saw the person approaching, East Wave Monarch's expression sunk slightly. His gaze swiftly swept past Yi Qing Luo's face. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's calm and indifferent expression, as though she didn't care about the person approaching, he silently heaved a sigh of relief. In actual fact, Yi Qing Luo indeed didn't care. She squinted her long and narrow eyes as she looked at the person with a smile which didn't look like a smile before she slowly shifted her gaze away. This person's appearance was totally within Yi Qing Luo's expectations. Chao Qian as a country protector general, it was impossible for him to find trouble with her in public for no reason. After all, he needed his face. But unfortunately, Chao Qian was so brainless as to let her slap his face. It could be said that there was no one behind this. She absolutely didn't believe it. It was none other than the sect master of the Jade Dome sect, Hao Nanren. Hao Nanren and Yi Qingluo and the others had formed a huge enmity, so there was absolutely no chance for them to work together. Today, Yi Qingluo and her entourage were personally invited by the East Wave monarch to the East Wave continent. That was stepping on his territory and slapping his face. How could Hao Nanren tolerate it? He couldn't wait to rush out. The Nirvana realm was dominated by the sects and supported by the royal family. When Hao Nanren's figure appeared in front of the crowd, everyone bowed respectfully in Hao Nanren's direction. Although his attitude could not be said to be as enthusiastic as when he was facing the East Wave sovereign, he was still very respectful. Hao Nanren waved his hand and stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo, gritting his teeth as he pointed at her with righteous indignation, bellowing, "Everyone, don't be cheated by this demoness." She was a demoness who could bewitch people's hearts. Her goal in coming to the East continent is to destroy it. Hearing Hao Nanren mention the words, "destroy the East continent" once again, the crowd couldn't help but frown, looking at Hao Nanren's hysterical look. Chapter 3261. Hao Nanren sneered. The fat on his face trembled as he pointed his finger at the East Wave sovereign. "Your respected ruler has long been bewitched by the demoness and lost his heart and soul. Everything I'm doing now is just being controlled by this demoness." Hao Nanren's words stunned the onlookers. Their Lord Monarch had been bewitched by the demoness? No, that's impossible. Their Lord Monarch was clearly sane. The East Wave sovereign's face turned red with anger when he heard Hao Nanren's words. Following that, she quickly shot a glance towards Dmo Xian's direction. What did he mean by being bewitched by the imperial madam? What do you mean by losing my soul? No matter how lustful he was, he did not have the guts to flirt with the sovereign's woman. What if Dizun misunderstood him? The East Wave sovereign hurriedly explained. "Sect master of the Jade Dome sect. What nonsense are you talking about? The only thing I have for you is gratitude." Following that, he cupped his hands in obeisance towards Dmo Xian's direction as his voice was steady and dignified. "Moreover, Imperial Madam already has a husband and I have great respect for young Master D and Imperial Madam, so I will absolutely not cross the line." With that said, the East Billow sovereign's face darkened as he hollered angrily, "Sect master of Jade Dome sect, what are your intentions for slandering me like this?" The East Wave sovereign's attitude was extremely righteous. The crowd's suspicions about the East Wave sovereign were shattered by his words. Hao Nanren's eyes turned cold. He clenched the fat on his arm so tightly that he almost squeezed the flesh out of his arm. "Ha! East Wave sovereign. Do you dare to use your title as a sovereign to tell the people you care about that you didn't abandon your own niece for that demoness? Do you dare to say that you didn't lock your own niece out of the country for that demoness?" Hao Nanren's words caused the East Wave sovereign's expression to change drastically. He looked at the citizens who were filled with confusion. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't spit out the words that were already at the tip of his tongue. Because he chased Lan Ling Nua out of the country. It was indeed to please Yi Qingluo. As the monarch of the Eastern continent, he absolutely could not lie to his people. The East Wave sovereign hesitated for a moment. This also increased the suspicions of the onlookers towards the East Wave sovereign. The corners of Hao Nanren's mouth twitched in an extremely secretive manner, revealing a mocking smile. This smile quickly disappeared into the depths of his cold eyes. Taking advantage of the fact that everyone was already suspicious of the East Billow continent, he struck while the iron was hot and continued. "The East Billow sovereign has no way of refuting this, right? Because your heart has already been completely bewitched by that demoness. Now you're blindly following that demoness lead. The way I see it, you invited this demoness back to the East continent this time, because you plan to let this demoness take over the East continent's imperial family, and gradually invade the East continent." Hao Nanren was very clear. How selfish could the human heart be? Once it involved his own interests, everyone would go crazy for it. So when Hao Nanren mentioned that Yi Qing Luo's motive was to make the East Waves royal family a figurehead, to invade the East Waves continent, the onlookers turned pale with fright. He couldn't help but feel scared. What Hao Nanren said might be true. Whether it was the profound practitioners of the major forces or the common people, all of them had different thoughts when they heard Hao Nanren's words. The sounds of discussion rose and fell. There were also people pointing and gossiping. Chapter 3262. East Waves monarch's face turned steely green. His fists were clenched tightly in anger as green veins popped out. This Hao Nanren obviously bore a grudge for what happened in South Waves continent. Facing the crowd's discussions and distrust, East Waves monarch's expression turned uglier and uglier. Although in East Waves continent, Jade Dome sect's status was higher than the royal family, but the royal family's existence was to balance Jade Dome sect. If Jade Dome sect insisted on doing things their own way, then he wouldn't be afraid of Hao Naoran. East Waves monarch's icy cold expression slowly froze as an imposing and domineering aura was unleashed. East Waves monarch. Suddenly, a clear voice broke East Waves monarch's anger, which was about to explode. This voice wasn't loud. However, it was able to gently and slowly suppress the emotions of the East Wave sovereign. East Waves monarch swiftly turned around and looked at Yi Qing Luo. When he met Yi Qing Luo's serene eyes, he felt a chill down his spine as he lowered his head. I'm sorry. I can't lie to the commoners. I understand. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand as she interrupted his words. Hao Nanren grabbed hold of this point of yours to make you lose the commoners' trust. The more you say, the more mistakes you make. Now Hao Nanren is waiting for you to get angry. As long as you get angry, your embarrassment will turn into anger, and Hao Nanren will achieve his motive. Madam is right. East Waves monarch's eyes were surging with emotions as his fists under his dragon robe clenched even tighter. Originally he was still considering how to fulfill Yi Qing Luo's conditions, which meant that Yi Qing Luo was willing to help East Waves continent, and he had to fulfill the corresponding conditions. When Secluded Palace attacked, he wanted all the forces in East Waves continent to not extend a helping hand to Jade Dome sect. Nirvana Realm's main sect was a difficult condition for him. Moreover, he still had a sliver of pity towards Hao Nanren. But now, Hao Nanren had successfully eliminated the last bit of his reluctance to do so. Coincidentally, all the major forces were here. Then he would make use of this opportunity to make all the major forces stay away from Jade Dome sect. East Waves monarch's peripheral vision slightly glanced towards Dmo Xian's direction. He was secretly thinking about what chance to expose the Overlord's identity. As long as the Overlord's identity was revealed. Basically, there was no one in the entire East Wave continent who dared not to believe him. East Wave monarch's peripheral vision did not escape Yi Qing Luo's sight. It was just a glance. Yi Qing Luo was very clear about East Waves monarch's way of doing things. This was indeed a good way to slap Hao Nanren in the face and divide the Jade Dome sect from the other major forces. It would also let Chao Qian, the protector of the kingdom, understand that as a protector of the kingdom, he could easily be used as a tool. It was fine if it was her today. If it was someone else, as the country protector general, his every move could affect the entire Jade Dome city, and even the East continent. East Billow Monarch detected Yi Qing Luo's gaze as he took a look at Chao Qian, and then at Yi Qing Luo. Immediately, he understood what Yi Qing Luo was thinking about. He coughed lightly and said awkwardly, Actually, the general wasn't used by Hao Nanren, because he treated Nua, or as his daughter-in-law, Lanling Nua, daughter-in-law, Yi Qing Luo. As expected, a moron would only fall for a moron. Lanling Nua, that brainless narcissist, attracted the brainless family of the state-protecting general. Chapter 3263. In other words, the reason why the protector of the state is targeting me is because of his retarded, no, because of his son? Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she looked at the East Lan monarch. The East Wave sovereign felt even more embarrassed. He tried his best to ignore the word idiot as he said, If my guess is correct, that should be the case. Yi Qing Luo. He was such a good father. Of course, I'm not saying that Hao Nanren has nothing to do with what you did today. The East Wave sovereign coughed dryly. How Nanren is used to using people's hearts to achieve his own goals. The protector of the state was also blinded by his son's matter. If it is possible, I hope that the imperial madam will forgive the protector of the state. Yi Qing Luo indifferently shot a glance at Chao Qian as her tone was indifferent. Towards him, I have no interest. She had a max-level main account, and a full set of godly equipment. For a newbie account like Chao Qian, she did not have much time to spare on him. The East Wave sovereign heaved a sigh of relief. After all, the protector of the state was also a member of the royal family. If Yi Qing Luo wanted the kingdom protecting general's life, the East Wave imperial family would definitely be affected. Below him, there were still many forces eyeing the position of general covetously. At this critical juncture where the Palace of Darkness could attack at any time, the East Wave sovereign really didn't want to complicate matters. The East Wave monarch did not wish to stay here any longer. He no longer wished to be the target of the crowd's criticism. He looked towards Dmo Xian's direction. Just as he was about to open his mouth and announce Dmo Xian's identity. East Wave monarch, when you forced me to go to the South Wave continent and personally handed over the Jade Dome Sect's heirloom, I knew that you had been bewitched by this demoness. Everything you've said has been instructed by this demoness. I don't believe it. How Nanren naturally noticed East Wave monarch's gaze on Dmo Xian. How could he not know what the East Wave sovereign was planning? He immediately took the initiative to strike back at the East Wave sovereign. With his words in front of her, even if the East Wave monarch revealed Dmo Xian's identity, the onlookers also began to doubt the East Wave sovereign's words. They would also think that there was a possibility that this was a lie which Yi Qing Luo had instigated. Of course, there were also profound practitioners who wanted to believe in the power of the East Wave sovereign. However, this matter concerned the future survival of the East Water continent. No one dared to make their stance clear. The words that the East Wave sovereign was about to say were forced back into his throat by Hao Nanren. He was so angry that he was about to stomp his feet. His face was ashen and ugly to the extreme. Ha. Speechless now, right? Monarch of the East Waves. Does this mean that you agree? When Hao Nanren saw that the monarch of the East Waves was rendered speechless, he laughed loudly in a pleased manner. The humiliation that he had suffered from Yi Qing Luo and East Wave monarch. He wanted to repay them bit by bit. Although Hao Nanren's eyes were as small as a slit, the viciousness hidden in them were very strong. His eyes were filled with viciousness as he stared at Yi Qing Luo's direction. His lips curled into an evil sneer. However, the moment Hao Nanren's gaze landed on him, a voice suddenly rang out. The girl's clear and charming eyes met Hao Nanren's gaze leisurely. Their eyes happened to meet. The sinister smile on Hao Nanren's face was seen clearly. Then, Hao Nanren's chubby face turned ghastly pale as if the color had faded. His smile and expression froze on his face. On the other hand, the young lady who met his gaze had a teasing smile in her eyes as she looked at him who was obviously trying to avoid her gaze. Star. Chapter 3264. Jade Dome Sect's Sect Master. Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth as her voice was clear and sweet. Just a single call, and Hao Nanren's entire body seemed as though he was struck by lightning as he kept shivering. That fat pig-like body was shaking so much that a pot of oil could be flung out. What are you trying to do? This sect master is warning you, this is East Continent. If you dare to make a move, make a move. In South Continent, Hao Nanren had suffered quite a number of losses in Yi Qing Luo's books. Adding on to the fact that he was very clear of this young lady's close relationship with the mysterious and respectable overlord. Especially, he took out a fake Azure Dragon Pearl and was exposed by Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo used that kind of humiliating method to get someone to throw him out. He, East Continent's Jade Dome Sect's sect master, suffered the treatment of being thrown out of the city gates in South Continent. This matter had even spread to East Continent. He had always been a joke in East Continent. Towards Yi Qing Luo, Hao Nanren had already formed a reflex fear mentality. If I make a move, what can you do? Yi Qing Luo naturally saw the terror on Hao Nanren's face. Following Yi Qing Luo's advance, he took a small step forward. Hao Nanren was so scared that he quivered as his entire body bounced on the spot. you dare? With a swoosh sound, his entire body's profound energy was unleashed at this instance. The surging profound energy turned into a hurricane as it whizzed around him, preventing others from getting close. No, to be more accurate, it was guarding against Yi Qingluo's approach. But just this degree of hurricane, could it stop her? Yi Qingluo scoffed lightly. She raised her fair palm, and in an extremely lazy manner, she pointed her palm towards Hao Nanren's direction. Profound energy, not congealed yet. Yi Qingluo's chest suddenly felt a scorching hot sensation surging. That was the direction of her profound jade heart. Why did her profound jade heart have a reaction again? Yi Qingluo frowned slightly as she lowered her eyes to look at her profound jade heart. Immediately following that, she sensed a riot coming from the pet space. Master, don't fight, don't fight. Chi-Chi feels an unusual presence. Chi-Chi's crisp voice came from the pet space. Then Chiao Jiao's small, arrogant voice rang out. Foolish human, if you hit me with that palm, you'll be the one to regret it. Yi Qingluo's raised palm slowly retracted as she clenched it tightly. What's going on? Qi Yan snorted and said, there is a familiar smell on the fat man named Hao Nanren. Yes, master. That unusual aura was very dense. If master can find that unusual aura through that lump of fat, it will definitely be helpful to master. Chi-Chi wagged his tail in agreement. An unusual aura? A familiar smell? On Hao Nanren? Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased as she stared at Hao Nanren and sized him up for a long time, but she didn't detect any different aura from Hao Nanren. Madam, what are you thinking about? East Billow Monarch saw that Yi Qingluo had been using a strange gaze to stare at Hao Nanren, and his heart couldn't help but felt his hair standing on end. Yi Qingluo glanced sideways as she looked at East Billow Monarch. A glint suddenly flashed past her mind as a mischievous glint flashed past her eyes, and she pretended to be doubtful. I sensed a different aura from Hao Nanren's body. Could it be that this Jade Sky Sect's sovereign has other unknown powers? East Billow Monarch's pupils suddenly contracted. This change was extremely minute, but it penetrated deep into Yi Qingluo's eyes. Chapter 3265. Previously, Yi Qingluo had crossed hands with Hao Nanren, but at that time her little companions didn't show any special reaction. This time, when Hao Nanren released his profound energy, Chi-Chi and Chi-Yin sensed a strange aura. It could be seen that after she chased Hao Nanren out of the palace in South Wave's continent, what change had happened to Hao Nanren? And this change should be due to external forces. Yi Qingluo initially felt that Hao Nanren might cooperate with the secluded palace in a fit of anger. At the same time, he would obtain the power to raise his profound grade. But after observing Hao Nanren for a long time, Yi Qingluo didn't sense any trace of secluded palace's in-chi from Hao Nanren. Furthermore, if Hao Nanren really cooperated with the secluded palace, then it was impossible for him to find trouble with her in front of the various powerhouses, cultivators, and the commoners, even to the extent that he publicly expressed the discord between Jade Dome sect and East Wave's royal family. So, Yi Qingluo concluded. She totally couldn't sense the strange aura from Hao Nanren, but it made Chi-Chi and Chi-Yin extremely excited. It must be related to Hao Nanren or Jade Dome sect itself. Because of this, Yi Qingluo asked. From East Wave's monarch's expression, Yi Qingluo was completely sure of her guess. Regarding Jade Dome sect, is it inconvenient for East Wave's monarch to say it clearly? Yi Qingluo asked with a light smile. Her tone was gentle and her emotions were calm. But how would East Wave's monarch not hear the deeper meaning in Yi Qingluo's words? Earlier, because of Yi Qingluo's words, he revealed an astonished expression, and it definitely didn't escape Yi Qingluo's eyes. Even if he didn't admit it, Yi Qingluo could also conclude that Jade Dome sect indeed had other powers. Moreover, it wasn't unknown. East Wave's monarch pondered for a moment in his mind, and quickly chose Yi Qingluo's side. He lowered his voice and explained to Yi Qingluo. It's not inconvenient to say it clearly. Actually, in East Wave's continent, it's not considered a big secret. But I feel that it has nothing to do with this. Tell me about it. Yi Qingluo raised her brows curiously. East Wave's monarch said. In East Wave's continent, Jade Dome Sect's rear mountain, there's a forbidden grounds. That forbidden grounds has a mysterious and powerful force. Forbidden area? Yi Qing Luo ridiculed in her heart. Another forbidden plot? Why did every sect seem to like playing the game of forbidden lands? East Wave Monarch naturally didn't know about Yi Qing Luo's ridicule from the official as he continued. That forbidden zone a long time ago actually didn't belong to Jade Dome Sect. But before that, countless profounders had wanted to enter the forbidden area and obtain the energy within it. But none of them survived. The East Wave Sovereign's expression turned solemn as he finished his last sentence. He clenched his fists. Because of that forbidden area, the East Water continent had lost many profound practitioners. On the surface, the number of profound practitioners they had lost had already caused him incomparable heartache. Not to mention, the profound practitioners who had secretly snuck into the forbidden area. So in the face of heavy losses, the East Billow Imperial family and the Jade Dome Sect came to an agreement. The Jade Dome Sect will guard that forbidden area and prevent cultivators from taking risks. Yi Qing Luo had only listened to the first half of the story and had already imagined the rest of the plot. The East Wave Monarch was taken aback. How did Madam Emperor know? Yi Qing Luo. It was just a random guess. Chapter 3266. The Forbidden Zone is handed over to Jade Dome Sect to guard. Does that mean that Jade Dome Sect's people can freely enter and exit the Forbidden Zone? Yi Qing Luo coughed dryly as she speedily changed the topic. As expected, East Wave's monarch didn't bother about why Yi Qing Luo was able to tell the reason of the subsequent plot. Instead, he respectfully answered Yi Qing Luo's question. No. Although Jade Dome Sect is guarding that Forbidden Zone, but the entire Jade Dome Sect, including Hao Nanren, is not allowed to enter that Forbidden Zone. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose as she gave a deep smile. She squinted her eyes as she stared at Hao Nanren. The expression on her face was tainted with an unfathomable deep meaning. East Wave's monarch took a careful look at Yi Qing Luo as he felt goosebumps. He stammered as he asked softly, What's the matter? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she smiled sweetly. Nothing, I suddenly don't feel like hitting him anymore. Saying that, Yi Qing Luo swung her arm as she walked towards Dmo Xian's direction. Hao Nanren's original flame was still rising as he tried to stop Yi Qing Luo's attack. After hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, like a frosted eggplant, his entire body slackened. The taut muscles in his body slowly relaxed at this moment. The hurricane aura around him slowly subsided. After his tensed-up emotions, the moment he relaxed, it made his entire body feel weak as his breathing became heavy, taking in big mouthfuls of air. But when Hao Nanren saw Yi Qing Luo walking towards Dmo Xian, his heart, which had just relaxed, started to hang in suspense again. Others didn't know that the purple-robed man was the Overlord. He knew. It wasn't that Yi Qing Luo didn't want to fight with him, but she intended to let the Overlord take action. No, absolutely not. Once the Overlord took action, East Wave's continent's various powerhouses, various commoners, would absolutely bow down to the Overlord's might. Then everything he had done today would have been in vain. Most importantly, between him and Yi Qing Luo, with the royal family, it was obvious that they were on bad terms. No matter how much those people in East Wave's continent respected him as the sect master, they wouldn't take the risk of offending the Overlord to interact with him. The more Hao Nanren thought about it, the more panicked he became. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo was about to reach Dmo Xian's side, Hao Nanren was anxious. His face, which was so fat that only the flesh could be seen, was twisted in anger. Demoness, are you feeling guilty now that I've seen through your scheme? Hao Nanren bellowed furiously as he tried to sow discord between Dmo Xian and him. That Demoness is a vixen who can't stand being left out. Even the East Wave Sovereign, who was old enough to be her father, was willing to do such a thing. I don't know how many men she has seduced before you. Under Hao Nanren's anxiousness, he only wanted to break up the relationship between Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian. For Yi Qing Luo to be so arrogant, wasn't her biggest trump card the Overlord? If Di Zun was gone, she was just a little girl. How could she be so arrogant? Thinking of this, when Hao Nanren was making fun of Yi Qing Luo, it was so smooth that he didn't even have to pant. But Hao Nanren didn't see it. When he opened his mouth for the first sentence, that masked man revealed a pair of peach blossom eyes under the mask. The gaze which he shot at him was like a sharp ice knife, turning colder and colder. Even when he was about to continue to sow dissension between the two of them, the man's sleeves moved. Chapter 3267. Hao Nanren intended to sow discord, but it turned into a miserable shriek. He didn't have any precaution against Dmo Xian. Of course, even if he had precaution, if Dmo Xian made a move, it would be hard for him to escape. Hence, Hao Nanren forcefully withstood Dmo Xian's palm strike through the air. Inside his body, his 5 viscera and 6 bowels churned and twisted together. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell heavily onto the ground with a pale face as he howled in pain. The surrounding crowd revealed an aghast expression. In their subconscious, they still wanted to respect the sect and wanted to go up to support their sovereign. But facing the purple-robed man's cold intent, to hell with this idea of being the most respected. All of them watched Hao Nanren sprawled on the ground vomiting blood, as though he was a piece of meat rolling in a hot pot. Towards this scene, Yi Qing Luo didn't even give Hao Nanren a glance. She skipped to Dmo Xian's side and hooked his arm. Her actions were as delicate as a young lady who was untainted by the world. There was no trace of the majestic and domineering aura he had shown when he faced Hao Nanren just now. The surrounding crowd was stunned. Yi Qing Luo rested her chin on the man's arm as she raised her head and smiled at the man's handsome side profile. Xian, you heard what East Wave Monarch said, right? Dmo Xian's gaze was filled with warmth as his thin lips curled. Mn. East Wave Monarch and Yi Qing Luo's conversation was extremely soft. Even a cultivator might not be able to hear clearly what they were discussing. But Dmo Xian was different. Although eavesdropping this kind of behavior was very degrading, but there was something related to her. How could Dmo Xian not care about it? His vision had always been on Yi Qing Luo, not blinking at all. Towards Dmo Xian's warmth, it was as though it was filled with thousands of spring water. Yi Qing Luo's heart was also filled with warmth. The smile between her brows seemed to be longer and narrower. She blinked her long eyelashes. When Hao Nanren released his profound energy, Chi and Chi Yen said that there was an unusual aura on Hao Nanren. Just now, after Hao Nanren spat out blood, Chi and Chian's feelings became stronger. After saying that, she tilted her head and said, when we were at the Northern Continent's Qinghua clan, Chi and Chi Yen also had the same reaction. She paused, dragging out the last syllable, and narrowed her eyes. Her smile was bright and beautiful, as if all the light in the world had gathered on her. In between Dmo Xian's brows, the lines softened and his deep magnetic voice lightly spat out 2 words. So? These 2 words seemed to be able to melt 1,000 years of frost. Of course, this gentleness was only limited to Yi Qing Luo alone. No one could escape from Dmo Xian's male hormones. Yi Qing Luo was the same. When the man's voice rang out, Yi Qing Luo was already grinning as she clung onto Dmo Xian's arm, shifting into his arms. So, I have a guess. That forbidden area. She didn't finish her sentence. A mysterious smile hung on her lips as she blinked her eyes. Her posture was delicate and adorable. The man's pupils reflected the young lady's devastatingly beautiful face and that bright smile. The smile on his lips grew bigger bit by bit. Facing the young lady's hopeful gaze, he slowly nodded his head. Just as he nodded his head, the young lady's eyes were like the bright stars in the night sky, sparkling with dazzling rays. Chapter 3268. Since she had confirmed the guess in her heart, Yi Qing Luo didn't waste any more time. She looked towards the East Wave's monarch. Her pitch-black eyes were filled with a deep meaning of a smile. The East Wave's monarch felt a chill down his spine when he was stared at by this gaze as his body unconsciously straightened up. What did this gaze mean? Was she hinting at something? Was she running away from him for something? Thoughts kept flying past in the East Wave's monarch's mind. Suddenly, a calm and icy cold voice broke all the thoughts in his mind. Forbidden grounds. These two simple words exploded in the East Wave Sovereign's mind like a clap of thunder. The expression on the East Wave's monarch's face was both terrified and solemn as he looked towards Emotien's direction. Earlier, that voice came from the Overlord. Forbidden grounds? What did this mean? The East Wave's monarch was shocked as his mind went into a daze. His gaze moved swiftly, trying to catch the meaning of the Overlord's words. Suddenly, his gaze collided with Yi Qing Luo's gaze, which seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. He quivered instantly. He caught on to something as he recalled the discussion about the forbidden grounds with Yi Qing Luo earlier. Could it be? The Overlord and Imperial Madam were planning to. You all are indeed angry from embarrassment. How Nanren clutched his chest as he screamed, pointing at the few of them with hatred. Although Emotien's palm didn't take his life, but it also caused his internal organs to be twisted together, as long as he circulated his profound jade heart, and wanted to release his profound energy. That twisting pain would corrode his limbs and bones. It was so painful that he couldn't bear it as he groaned. The twisting pain in his body was torturing him. His hatred towards Yi Qing Luo and the hatred towards the East Billow's monarch grew even more intense. Of course, it wasn't that he didn't hate the Overlord. But the Overlord was so powerful that he didn't even dare to have any thoughts of hatred. Cough cough. Suddenly, the East Wave's monarch cleared his throat, interrupting the raging anger in Hao Nanren's heart, and interrupting the crowd's pointing discussions. Everyone's attention was focused on the East Wave Sovereign. The East Wave Sovereign flicked his dragon robe slowly. He looked dignified as he stared at Hao Nanren calmly. The Jade Dome sect master is slandering me because he doubts the Emperor Madam's strength. Hao Nanren frowned, his face full of vigilance. The East Tide Sovereign ignored Hao Nanren's response. He looked at the crowd and continued. As for all of you, the reason why you have such a huge reaction is because you cannot believe in the power of the Empress. You cannot believe that she and her companions can save the East Tide continent. He paused and raised his voice to ask, is what I said correct? The onlookers exchanged glances with the people around them before looking at the East Wave Sovereign in unison. They nodded their heads in unison and said, yes, yes. The corner of the East Wave Sovereign's lips curled up. If Imperial Madam can prove her strength, will everyone believe in my choice and believe in Imperial Madam's strength? The onlookers were about to nod in agreement. Hao Nanren immediately interrupted. No. Chapter 3269. Hao Nanren was rendered speechless by East Wave Monarch's words. In his heart, he was certain that the reason why that lady called Yi Qing Luo had so many legendary stories was because she had the help of the Overlord and the Imperial Palace behind her. However, after hearing the East Wave Sovereign's solemn vow, the East Wave Sovereign's heart skipped a beat. No matter how much he felt that Yi Qing Luo was a demoness who relied on her looks, he didn't dare to take this risk. East Wave Monarch, you've already been bewitched by that demoness. What you said about proving your ability is totally untrustworthy. Hao Nanren's nerves were taut as he screamed. The crowd nodded in agreement as they looked towards East Wave Monarch in unison. Jade Dome sect master is right. Unexpectedly, East Wave Monarch nodded in agreement as he gave a gentlemanly smile. So I have a suggestion. Not only can it prove Imperial Madam's ability, it can also wash away the slander of me being bewitched. It can also make Jade Dome sect master, rest assured. As East Wave Monarch spoke, his tone became heavier and heavier. Hao Nanren's heart became even more tensed. And occasionally, it thumped heavily. That kind of uneasy premonition almost made his heart heavy, and he couldn't breathe. What? Under East Wave Monarch's imposing gaze, Hao Nanren's voice trembled as he spat out two words. The moment he said that, he suddenly regained his senses as he hurriedly retracted his words. No, this sect leader will not believe your words. Jade Dome sect master is really awe-inspiring. East Wave Monarch scoffed coldly as his eyes were filled with ridicule as he looked at Hao Nanren. So this East Wave continent belongs to Jade Dome sect master? You're allowed to spout nonsense and slander me, but I'm not allowed to use my own methods to wash away the slander? After he said this, he took a look at the crowd's expression. After seeing the expected expression on the crowd's faces, he sneered as he continued, I haven't even said the specific contents of my suggestion, and Jade Dome sect master rejected it impatiently. Or rather, Jade Dome sect master is feeling guilty because she slandered me. The East Wave Sovereign deliberately stared into Hao Nanren's eyes and enunciated each and every word clearly. Hao Nanren's face changed from livid, red, and pale at a speed visible to the naked eye. Hao Nanren's attitude indeed made everyone suspicious. And in comparison, the East Wave monarch who had always been slandered, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian who were calm and indifferent. This made Hao Nanren even more hysterical, guilty and flustered. The hearts of the onlookers also began to waver. They respected and trusted the sect master of the Jade Dome sect. They also respected and trusted the East Wave sovereign. No one was willing to offend either side, taking into account the attitudes of both sides. In the end, the crowd chose to wait for the East Wave sovereign's suggestion. They wanted to see if it was reasonable or not. If it was reasonable, there was nothing better than proving the girl's strength. If it did not make sense, at the very least, they would be able to see clearly whether the East Wave sovereign was truly bewitched like the sect master had said. Hearing the crowd's approval of the East Wave sovereign's suggestion, the East Wave sovereign's eyes widened. Hao Nanren's face turned pale bit by bit. He didn't know what the East Wave sovereign and Yiqing Luo were planning, but he was very clear that if they followed their plan. Chapter 3270. But if he really refused, that would mean that he had a guilty conscience. It would also confirm that his Jade Dome sect wanted to be the only sect. Hao Nanren was in a dilemma at this moment. This East Wave sovereign had obviously dug a pit and was waiting for him to jump. And he had no choice but to jump. Why? Jade Dome sect master is so guilty that you don't even dare to listen to my suggestion? At this time, the East Wave sovereign specially added insult to injury, facing the suspicious gazes of the onlookers. The East Wave sovereign's sneer was full of ridicule. Hao Nanren was forced to the point where the veins on his forehead were popping out. The more agitated he was, the more his chest was hit by Dmo Xian's palm. The more his internal organs churned, the more pain he felt. He was in so much pain that his face turned green. Lord Sovereign, just say what suggestion you have. The reason why I and Lord Sovereign attacked this little girl was because we wanted to test her strength, in case you, Lord Sovereign, were deceived. Since you have a fair way to prove the little girl's strength, we are absolutely willing to accept it. When Chao Qian saw this, he immediately rushed up and used a loud voice that was unique to soldiers to continue the conversation. Why not accept such a suggestion? Anyway, that little girl's strength couldn't possibly be so heaven-defying. Just now she could take his axe bare-handed. But that didn't mean that the little girl could really prove her strength. Chao Qian's words made Hao Nanren's expression turn even uglier. He glared at Chao Qian and was about to reprimand him. However, Chao Qian didn't understand Hao Nanren's hatred at all, and even put his arm on Hao Nanren's like a good brother. Lord Sovereign, didn't you and Your Honor say that that little girl is a swindler? Since Lord Sovereign wants to give her a chance to struggle, on account of Lord Sovereign, we should also give it. Moreover, among the people present, which one of them wasn't a famous profound practitioner of the East Billow continent? There are so many citizens here. If Lord Sovereign's suggestion is really unfair, no one will agree. So Lord Sovereign, let's listen to what Lord Sovereign has to say first. Chao Qian's earnest persuasion was self-righteous words for Hao Nanren's good. It even forced Hao Nanren to have no way out. This was really piggish. Teammates can ruin your life. Hao Nanren said through gritted teeth. Fine. East Wave Sovereign, speak. The East Wave Sovereign's eyes flashed as he revealed a smile. Very good, the fish took the bait. Rest assured, my suggestion is absolutely fair. The East Wave Monarch smiled meaningfully. Since all of you are doubting Lady D's strength, then let Lady D enter the forbidden ground that has been guarded by the Jade Dome sect for generations. As soon as the East Wave Sovereign finished speaking, almost everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. What? Forbidden area? No one can walk out of that forbidden area alive. I still remember that 50 years ago, The Lord of the Tin Scenery sect cultivated for hundreds of years and broke through to the sky profound realm, but he still couldn't get out of that forbidden area. That's a heavenly profound supreme martial artist. Even a Sky Xian Supreme can't get out of the forbidden area. And Lord Monarch is letting that little girl in? Isn't he courting death? The various profound practitioners discussed spiritedly among themselves. Even Hao Nanren was stunned by the East Wave Sovereign's words. Chapter 3271. Why? Jade Dome Sect's sect master feels that it's inappropriate? East Wave Monarch narrowed his eyes as he sneered. As long as Madam Emperor can come out of the forbidden grounds alive, wouldn't that prove her ability? Don't think that East Wave Monarch looked calm now. His heart was actually very apprehensive. He didn't know if his guess was right or not. The clues that he had gotten. Only Madam Emperor had a profound gaze. The Overlord had mentioned the word forbidden grounds, without any rhyme or reason. The rest depended on his imagination. But after he raised this suggestion, East Wave Monarch didn't feel the needle-like gazes which he had imagined would be shot over. He quietly looked towards the Overlord and Madam Emperor. The expressions of the two people didn't change at all. Did it mean that? He guessed it right. Madam Emperor really wanted to enter the Forbidden Grounds. One must know. The Forbidden Grounds was a place which the entire East Wave continent yearned for but feared as a nightmare. Could Madam Emperor really come out of the Forbidden Grounds safely? Various emotions and thoughts were surging in East Wave Monarch's heart. On the surface, he still maintained that calm expression. My suggestion, isn't it fair? That Forbidden Grounds is guarded by your Jade Dome sect. And even the royal family can't go near it. Isn't this fair enough? This wasn't a question of fairness or unfairness. Hao Nanren wasn't sure what East Wave Monarch was planning. Could this be Yi Qingluo's scheme? Hao Nanren's puzzled gaze kept shifting between Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian, and occasionally looked towards East Wave Monarch. But he couldn't tell that there was any exchange of glances between them. To tell the truth, choosing the Forbidden Grounds was indeed the fairest place. In the entire East Wave continent, no matter where, no matter what method was used, there was a possibility that East Wave Monarch would help Yi Qingluo to cheat. But it was impossible to only do it in the Forbidden Grounds. That forbidden area was guarded by his men of sacrifice. The royal family indeed couldn't interfere. Moreover, even he himself didn't dare to venture deep into that Forbidden Grounds. This suggestion is good. Without waiting for Hao Nanren to hesitate and think deeply about the motive, Chao Qian's loud voice exploded beside his ear. Chao Qian patted Hao Nanren's back. What Monarch said is right. The forbidden ground guarded by the Jade Dome sect couldn't be used to test the little girl's strength. It's fair, there's nothing wrong with it. Hao Nanren was already suffering from internal injuries. The palm struck down. Hao Nanren felt that his internal organs that had been tangled together were all broken. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He stumbled backwards. If not for Chao Qian's timely support, Hao Nanren would have become a pile of fat meat on the ground. Hao Nanren's face turned green and pale. He wished he could slap Chao Qian, this stupid teammate, to death. If only he had known that Chao Qian was so stupid that he was hated by others. He definitely wouldn't have found such a stupid teammate in the first place. Just as Hao Nanren was left speechless by Chao Qian's words, the East Wave Sovereign spoke up. The girl who had been standing silently by the man's side moved her pink lips and said in a clear voice, "That's good. Since the protector of the state has said so, I will accept this challenge." The East Wave Sovereign looked at the crowd and said, "Since the Lady Emperor has agreed to it, what do you think of my suggestion?" The crowd looked at each other in dismay. That Forbidden Grounds was a legendary existence in the East Wave continent. No one had any objections. Chapter 3272. Hearing the crowd's cheerful voices of agreement. Looking at Chao Qian, he patted his back as he raised his voice to express his opinion. "Then we've decided to use this method to test the young girl's ability. As long as the young girl can come out alive, we'll believe her." Now that things had come to this, there was no room for Hao Nanren to reject. Of course he could reject. But once he rejected, Then it would be proven that he was guilty and he was intentionally targeting Yiqing Luo, intentionally slandering the East Wave's monarch. How Nanren took a deep breath to ease the pain in his body, and also to calm the restlessness in his heart. He shut his eyes tightly. No matter, agree then agree. Even a profound Sky Supreme Being powerhouse had died in that forbidden area. How could Yiqing Luo be able to compete against a Sky Mystic Overlord expert? If she wanted to come out alive, to prove her ability, that would depend on whether she had the fate to do so, whether she had the chance. With this thought in mind, how Nanren's lips curled into a sinister sneer as he abruptly opened his eyes. His poisonous eyes stared at Yiqing Luo with a sinister smile. I can agree to the East Wave's monarch's suggestion, but I have another condition. East Wave's monarch's brows creased as he was about to open his mouth, but he heard Yiqing Luo chuckling as she spat out a word. Speak. I'm doubting you, using your looks to please others, so you can only enter the forbidden grounds alone. How Nanren's eyes were burning with a sinister flame as he pointed his finger. He and your companions are not allowed to enter the forbidden grounds. The first person he wanted to stop was the Overlord. As long as the Overlord didn't lend a helping hand, Yiqing Luo would definitely die in the forbidden grounds. As expected, when he raised this request, Yiqing Luo's clear and peerlessly beautiful face turned pale. Even the smile on the corners of her lips had stiffened, whereas East Wave's monarch was already anxious as his forehead was filled with sweat. How can this be? No matter if it's the Emperor's madam, young Master D or their companions, they are all my benefactors. If we want to test, naturally everyone should test together. East Wave's monarch's panic was extremely realistic, because he was really panicking. He had been able to remain calm previously because he believed in His Majesty's strength. They also thought that the Overlord and Madame D had planned to enter the Forbidden Land to silence the crowd, because the Overlord was confident that he could come back alive from the Forbidden Land. But now, Dizun was not allowed to enter the Forbidden Land with them? Only the Imperial Madam? No matter how powerful the Imperial Madam was, after entering that forbidden area, it would be extremely dangerous. After all, even a Sky Mystic Supreme had perished in the forbidden area. The East Wave Sovereign's panic further confirmed how Nanren's suspicions, coupled with Yiqing Luo's expression. How Nanren was proud of his wit. Lady D didn't look too happy. Wasn't Lady D very confident? Could it be that Madame D can't do anything without that man? You. The East Wave Sovereign roared furiously, Sect Master of the Jade Dome Sect. How can you let the Emperor Madam enter the forbidden grounds alone? Chapter 3273. Not only this sect master, the country's imperial general, or everyone present, who doesn't think that Imperial Madam uses her looks to seduce powerful men. A little demoness who escorts her. How Nanren's tone became more and more vulgar. Following that, he laughed loudly as he looked at the crowd. Don't you think so? His laughter made his insides hurt even more. But just thinking of the scene of Yiqing Luo entering the forbidden grounds and dying inside, he couldn't help but continue laughing. The crowd didn't want to offend the royal family, so they didn't go along with how Nanren's words. But their gazes towards Yiqing Luo were extremely obvious. So to prove your ability, to make everyone believe in you, naturally you have to rely on your own strength. How Nanren sneered as his lips twitched. Why? Imperial Madam doesn't dare to? After he finished his words, he started laughing crazily again. But this gaze and how Nanren's laughter didn't last for long. But moments later, the entire street fell into a dead silence. Not knowing from where an indescribable majestic overbearing aura enveloped them. It was like 1,000 catty huge rock, pressing heavily on everyone. That aura was getting fiercer and fiercer. They couldn't even catch their breaths. Not to mention staring at Yiqing Luo. Their minds were filled with lewd thoughts. Not to mention that he was laughing maniacally. Only East Wave's monarch knew clearly that aura was released by the Overlord. He believed, if it wasn't for Imperial Madam coaxing him by the side, he was afraid that the Overlord wanted to exterminate everyone present. He didn't miss the flash of murderous intent in the Overlord's cold gaze. That murderous intent was very faint, But it was enough to make East Wave's monarch feel the arrival of death. East Wave's monarch rubbed his hands, thinking of ways to cooperate with Imperial Madam to send the Overlord into the Forbidden Grounds. But he saw Imperial Madam holding the Overlord's hand, standing slightly forward as she looked at Hao Nanren, smiling faintly. "All right, I can agree to this request." "Imperial Madam." East Wave's monarch opened his mouth anxiously, his face filled with worry and panic. Yi Qingluo raised her hand as she stopped East Lan Sovereign's persuasion words. Her alluring eyes were calm as she stared at Hao Nanren. "What Jade Dome sect master said is right. Indeed, only if I enter the Forbidden Zone alone will everyone be convinced." But East Wave Sovereign's face was twisted as he looked at Dmo Xian. Seeing this, Hao Nanren immediately said, "The Emperor Lady is indeed a heroine. She is skilled and bold. Since that was the case, then it was settled. I think this young Master D will also agree." If the Overlord disregarded the rules and the agreement, and forced his way into the forbidden area, he was indeed unable to stop them. But if the Overlord really did it, Yi Qingluo's reputation in the Eastern continent would be completely ruined. He also had a chance to take advantage of this opportunity to force the East Wave Imperial family to step down. His plan to dominate the East continent could also be brought forward. Everyone's vision congealed onto Dmo Xian, waiting for his reply. After a long while, Dmo Xian's eyes were fixed on the hand which he and Yi Qingluo were holding, as he slowly raised his head. His thin lips moved slightly, his deep voice was as cold as ice, but it was so dignified that it made one's heart tremble. "If Lil Luoer agrees, then this lord agrees." East Wave's monarch's face turned paler. But the Overlord had already agreed. What other rights did he have to reject? It was because of Dmo Xian's agreement that made Hao Nanren laugh out so much that everyone forgot about the man's words earlier. That self-proclaimed this lord. Chapter 3274. Seeing that Dmo Xian had agreed to it, Hao Nanren was afraid that Dmo Xian would go back on his words as he hurriedly led a bunch of people towards the direction of the Forbidden Grounds. Along the way, Hao Nanren instructed seriously in front of the various powerhouses. "Since the Overlord has already agreed to my request, I hope the Overlord will abide by the agreement." Dmo Xian of course couldn't even be bothered to lift his eyelids. Hao Nanren didn't mind at all. Anyway, his instructions were all for the various powerhouses to hear. Following that, he continued on his own. After Imperial Madam enters the Forbidden Grounds, if the Overlord is worried about her and forcefully barges into the Forbidden Grounds, that would mean that Imperial Madam's challenge has failed, and it would also prove that what I said earlier is not a lie. The last sentence, Hao Nanren enunciated it word by word very slowly. A pair of slits eyes stared at Dmo Xian vigilantly. As long as the Overlord didn't interfere, just based on Yi Qingluo's strength, in the Forbidden Grounds, she probably wouldn't even be able to hold on for a joss stick's time. Moreover, as the guardian of that Forbidden Grounds, he couldn't be clearer about it. There was a possibility that even if the Overlord entered it personally, he wouldn't be able to walk out alive. Of course, this possibility was something that Hao Nanren didn't dare to try easily. After all, it was rumored that the Overlord came from the upper realm, and no one in the world knew the Overlord's real ability. Hao Nanren felt that it was better not to bet on a bet that he couldn't afford. "Let's kill Yi Qingluo first." Only, Hao Nanren's saliva had dried up after saying such a long paragraph of words. But he didn't get any response from them. That golden couple who were walking in front of him intimately didn't even give him a glance. This neglect made the fat on Hao Nanren's face feel like it was burning. Indistinctly, he could hear at least 100 over voices from various powerhouses behind them. Those two people don't seem to have any regard for Sovereign at all. Compared to Sovereign's attitude, I feel that those two people look a little otherworldly experts imposing manner. You think so too? Somehow I feel that Sovereign is intentionally targeting that young lady. The whispered discussions made Hao Nanren's expression turn uglier and uglier. He was extremely infuriated, and with a gloomy face, he hastened his footsteps and walked towards Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian. His meaty arms stretched out and stood in front of the two of them. Hao Nanren was about to speak. However, he was interrupted by the girl's clear and melodious voice. Since I said that I'm going in alone, then I'm going in alone. You're so long-winded. Could it be that you're really feeling guilty? The girl's voice was clearly impatient. Clearly, he had lost his patience with Hao Nanren's pestering. Hao Nanren swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. His face was flushed, and his eyes were sinister. Soon, the group arrived at the entrance of the forbidden area. The location of the forbidden ground was the back mountain of the Jade Dome sect that had been barren for hundreds of years. Due to the power that attracted countless cultivators to their deaths, the Jade Dome sect and the East Billow imperial family negotiated, and the Jade Dome sect set up a formation in the back mountain and arranged for the Jade Dome sect's death warriors to guard it. Even if Hao Nanren came personally, he had to take out a token to prove his identity before he could summon the death warriors to open the entrance of the formation. According to the rules, Jade Dome sect only had the right to guard the forbidden ground. Chapter 3275. However, Hao Nanren and the East Wave Sovereign had appeared at the same time this time. Moreover, he made the bet clear. Only then did the guard reluctantly agree to open the entrance to the formation. But he strongly requested to sign the life and death contract with Yiqing Luo. This was also Hao Nanren's request. In case any accident happened to Yiqing Luo in the Forbidden Grounds, causing the Overlord to vent his anger on Jade Dome sect. Under everyone's witness, Yiqing Luo signed the life and death contract. Hao Nanren finally heaved a sigh of relief. The entrance of the formation had just opened up a gap. The crowd present were able to clearly sense a powerful, opium-like, soul-enticing power pouring out in torrents. Yiqing Luo stood right in front. That force was directed at her face. Her delicate eyebrows furrowed slightly. Hao Nanren, who was by the side, had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo's expression. Seeing her frown, he smiled coldly and lifted his lower lip. He had personally experienced the power of the Forbidden Land. Yiqing Luo was definitely going to die today. At the entrance of the formation, there was a gap that could fit one person. Hao Nanren suddenly thought of something, and just as Yiqing Luo was about to enter the Forbidden Grounds, he suddenly opened his mouth. Wait! If you enter the Forbidden Land alone, no one will know what happens in the Forbidden Land. Therefore, in order to prove that you didn't hide at the edge of the formation, and wait for a few hours before walking out again. This sect leader suggests that not only do you have to come out alive, you also have to pluck the magnetic gold spirit grass in the middle of the forbidden area. Metal magnet spirit herb. The surrounding people gasped in shock. This metal magnet spirit grass was already a legendary herb in the East Billow continent. It was said that it was the only thing that the sect master of the Ten Scenery sect had left behind at the edge of the forbidden area 50 years ago. Later on, a medicine ancestor-ranked medicine master identified it as a rare metal magnet spirit herb. This metal magnetism spirit grass was so precious. That was because its effect was to refine a pill that could reconstruct one's fleshly body. Moreover, the reconstructed body was the cleanest, without any impurities. This kind of physical body, when cultivated, was equivalent to twice that of an ordinary person. The herbal sect's pharmacist concluded that there was a high possibility that this was a herb that grew in the forbidden area. After the herb was taken away by the Jade Dome sect 50 years ago, there had been no news of the magnetic metal spirit herb ever since. Hao Nanren made this request. It wasn't too much, right? But rumors were just rumors. Who knew if there really was a metal magnet spirit grass in the forbidden area? If he said it was too much, then he felt that his first sentence was quite right. If she didn't bring along some evidence, how would they believe that Yiqing Luo was in the forbidden grounds, hiding at the edge of the array to waste time? Or was she really able to walk one round in the forbidden grounds and preserve her life? Therefore, no one refuted him. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. She knew that Hao Nanren still had a trick up his sleeve waiting for her. She turned her gaze towards Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's eyes were tranquil, like a pair of peach blossom blooming eyes, collided with hers. Yiqing Luo's heart swiftly settled down. She smirked and said confidently, "Sure." Dmo Xian's expression did not change at all. This also meant that there was indeed a metal magnet spirit herb in this forbidden area. Don't ask Dmo Xian how he knew. Anyway, she believed in her Xian. When the crowd saw Yiqing Luo agreeing so readily, all of their expressions were complicated, as they couldn't help but think. Chapter 3276. Hearing Yiqing Luo's agreement. How Nanren's face was filled with complacency and sinister, totally unable to conceal. He continued excitedly, And one more thing, shouldn't you set a time? We can't just wait here for you for a year. Don't you agree? Yiqing Luo nodded in agreement. So? How Nanren laughed sinisterly. So you must give us a time. If we exceed that time and you haven't come out alive from the forbidden grounds, then that means you have already died in the forbidden grounds, which also means that you, Yiqing Luo, don't have the ability to save the East Continent. Under the excitement, How Nanren directly shouted out Yiqing Luo's name. When the crowd heard that, they started to nod. They couldn't possibly keep guarding the entrance of the forbidden grounds, waiting for the answer. They might as well give an accurate time directly. And How Nanren's excited action made quite a number of powerhouses cultivators frown slightly. Yiqing Luo? Earlier, Sovereign seemed to have shouted this name. Why did they somehow feel that this name sounded so familiar? Just as they were about to ponder deeply, Chao Qian's loud voice interrupted all the cultivators' deep thoughts. Young lass, hurry and tell us a time. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled. In her heart, she followed her own guess, calculating the approximate time. She stretched out her hand, as she raised 2 fingers towards How Nanren. 2 years. How Nanren couldn't help but laughed. Imperial Madam, are you joking? 2 years. You want us to wait for you for 2 years? Yiqing Luo's brows rose, as she shook her fingers. Chao Qian frowned, as he asked uncertainly, 2 months. Yiqing Luo smiled but didn't say a word. Don't tell me it's 20 days? How Nanren lost his patience from Yiqing Luo's keeping him in suspense. 20 days it is, then it's settled. No. Yiqing Luo's voice was languid and cold, as her fingers shook once again. 20 days. 20 days, your East Continent would have long become secluded palace's territory. She rolled her eyes. 2 days. 2 days. Everyone was shocked. This lady, could it be that she had treated this East Continent's nightmare forbidden grounds as an ordinary array? 2 days to reach the middle layer of the forbidden grounds, and even pluck the gold magnetic spirit grass? How is that possible? Let's not talk about whether we can reach the middle of the forbidden area within 2 days. Even if they arrived, would such a precious medicinal herb like the metal magnetism spirit grass be so easy to find? Even if he found it, would it be so easy to pluck it? This young lady was too confident. Madam, isn't this a little too short? The East Wave Monarch asked worriedly. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by How Nanren's loud shout. Good. 2 days. Madam D is a straightforward person. 2 days then. Sect Master of the Jade Dome Sect. The East Wave Sovereign shouted angrily as he glared at How Nanren. No one knew the dangers within the forbidden grounds. 2 days was really too short. It was obvious that How Nanren was trying to force Madam D to her death. If something happened to the Imperial Madam, the people of Dark Nether Palace took this opportunity to invade the East Continent. Then, who else could save the people of the East Below Continent? East Wave Sovereign's face turned pale, as the expression on his face turned dignified, as his eyes were filled with anger. East Wave Sovereign, that's the time which Madam D personally said, it has nothing to do with me. How Nanren hurriedly threw out this sentence, as his vision looked towards Dmo Xian. This sentence of his was also an explanation to Dmo Xian. Chapter 3277. The aura that the East Wave Sovereign was exuding dissipated in an instant. That's right, this was the time that Imperial Madam personally said. He looked at Yiqing Luo worriedly, wanting to persuade her, but when he saw the young lady's resolute eyes, the fluster in his heart calmed down. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a light smile. Her beautiful pink lips were like a gorgeous rose, slowly blooming. 2 days. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't confirm the guess in his heart, perhaps she wouldn't even need 4 hours. Yiqing Luo walked towards the entrance of the array and turned sideways, smiling at Dmo Xian. The young lady's charming eyes glowed, gathering thousands of tender feelings. Every eyebrow was filled with that tender feeling. The young girl raised 2 fingers and placed them on her lips, gently pressing a kiss on them. Following that, she pointed the direction of her fingers towards Dmo Xian. The young lady's cherry blossom pink lips curled into an enchanting smile. Word by word. Wait for me to come back. After the young lady finished her words, she smiled sweetly and stepped into the array to look for that. Obviously, the crowd didn't understand what the young lady's kiss meant, but they could clearly feel it. The young lady and that masked man had deep feelings for each other. How could a lady with such deep feelings in her eyes be able to tolerate anyone else in her heart? The crowd simply couldn't believe it. This young lady was what the sect master had mentioned, a lady who used her looks to serve others. The crowd looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. Her red robe fluttered. Her long black hair was like a butterfly's wings. Her entire body was enchanting, like the most brilliant peach blossom. That scene was imprinted in everyone's eyes, and also imprinted in their hearts, until the array entrance was completely shut. That red-robed figure completely disappeared before their eyes. They then regained their senses. How Narration saw everyone's reaction. He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with malice. It didn't matter. This group of people could think whatever they liked. Yiqing Luo went in. She went in. She would definitely die in the forbidden grounds. In this world, there was no one who would go against him. But how Narration, who was immersed in joy, didn't notice. The purple-clothed man stood there like a god. Beneath the mask, his peach blossom eyes shone like a poisonous thorny flower. It was bitterly cold, almost as though it were devouring one's soul. Inside the forbidden area, Yiqing Luo was just outside the forbidden grounds when she felt the special energy here. After entering the forbidden area, the boundless energy that seemed capable of devouring everything grew even denser. Towards the forbidden grounds, Yiqing Luo indeed didn't know much about it. However, he also knew that the mysterious power of this forbidden land should be released by something. This power was so strong. It was no wonder that it attracted so many profound practitioners. They clearly knew that this forbidden area was a dead end, but they still came wave after wave to throw away their lives. After all, everyone wanted to be an accident. What if he obtained this power? In this world where the strong were respected, that would be a man above men. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings. From outside the formation, she had thought that this forbidden area was a barren mountain where not even a blade of grass grew. But after stepping into the forbidden area, she discovered that this was a huge forest. Dense trees and weeds were almost as tall as a person. The surroundings were filled with all kinds of strange vines. It looked like a kind of déjà vu, man-eating plants. Yiqing Luo was observing the surrounding environment. Chapter 3278. Yiqing Luo opened the pet space. Not only Qi, Qi Yan, and Qi Ju also ran out from the pet space. After Qi ran out, its snow-white body pounced onto the weeds in front of it. Its forelegs faced the sky, revealing its snow-white belly. That furry tiger head was still swaying back and forth. Its size was the size of a normal tiger, but Qi-Chi's action of pouncing on the grass. It was like a snow-white cat, acting cute and acting coquettishly. Yiqing Luo indicated that her blood tank was already empty. Phew! There was a loud sound of wings flapping in his ears. Yiqing Luo wiped the blood on her nose as she followed the sound, and looked up into the sky. Between the dense branches was the dark blue sky. A bright and dazzling red glow soared in the sky, moving swiftly, like a free bird flying in the sky. She could tell. Qi Yan's mood was delighted. The two sacred beasts were so happy in this place. Yiqing Luo's vision shifted onto Qi Ju. Qi Ju's forelegs stretched out, lying on the ground. Perhaps it noticed Yiqing Luo's gaze. It swayed its leopard head, blinking its brown eyes, looking extremely adorable. Although Qi Ju's performance wasn't like Qi and Qi Yan, who were so excited that they completely released their nature. But from its relaxed and contented posture, it could be seen It also liked this forbidden area very much. Yiqing Luo smiled slightly at Shiju. Suddenly, her eyes flashed, as if there was something sparkling, flashed past her eyes. Yiqing Luo half squatted down, got close to Shiju's side, and stretched out her hand towards it. Shiju's claws crawled forward on the ground, rubbing its smooth head into Yiqing Luo's palm. The minute it got close, on its head, Yiqing Luo saw the sparkling and translucent thing earlier. Her palm came into contact with a piece of ice cold. Under the black fur on Shiju's head, there was a jade-green sparkling pearl, nestled in it. When Yiqing Luo touched the pearl, on the pearl, a jade-green light flashed past. This is... Yiqing Luo brushed aside the black fur on Shiju's head, as she asked puzzledly. On Shiju's head, there was not this jade-colored pearl in the past. That's a soul pearl formed from the black tortoise's half-soul. When Chi-Chi heard its master's voice, it rolled up from the ground and took light and quick steps as it jogged to Yiqing Luo's side. Chi-Chi leaned against Yiqing Luo's leg and fell onto the ground again. The crisp little voice continued. The atmosphere here is very friendly to us beasts. If we stay here longer, Chi-Chi's power will be even stronger than before. Chi-Chi raised its head proudly, its tiger-like eyes filled with pride. The black tortoise half-soul must have felt the aura here, so it specially condensed into a soul pearl and followed Shiju out. So it was the black tortoise. Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. No wonder those stupid humans say that this place is so magical. The red flame hovering in the sky, I don't know when, stood on a thick branch. Its sharp red beak slowly stroked the brilliant phoenix feathers on its body. That's right, the atmosphere here, to us beasts, is the best form of recuperation and advancement, but to humans it's a fatal injury. Chi-Chi nodded its furry head adorably. Fatal injury. Chapter 3279. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and touched her chest. Here the aura condensed in the air, and that special power, is indeed very strange. But it doesn't seem to resist me. At least here, she didn't feel any fatal injury. Qi Yan glanced at her proudly, and immediately snorted arrogantly. If it wasn't because you contracted with this sacred beast and little white, you would have been swallowed by the power here the first time you stepped in here. Yiqing Luo rarely coaxed. Yes, thanks to you and Chi-Chi. Qi Yan got Yiqing Luo's response, and his long neck was even more arrogant. Yiqing Luo touched Chi-Chi's head, and immediately stood up. She looked around, slowly opened her arms and closed her eyes. She slowly operated the profound jade heart in her body, bit by bit, releasing the power of the profound jade heart. The red profound light, like a red streamer, faintly flashed around Yiqing Luo. She released the profound energy, and the power condensed in the air of this forbidden area. It was extremely harmonious. There was no feeling of swallowing or chasing. Yiqing Luo withdrew her profound energy, and the arc of her lips slowly deepened. When she heard about the forbidden area, Yiqing Luo already had a guess in her heart. Just now the conversation between Qi Yan and Chi-Chi made her more certain of the guess in her heart. And now, she had personally tested the compatibility between herself and the power that Qi Yan had mentioned. She had already confirmed her guess. Choosing to come to the forbidden area was indeed the right choice. At the entrance, she sat quietly for about half an incense stick of time. Yiqing Luo stood up, and was about to call a few of her companions to go deeper. But when her line of sight passed by Shiju, the words that she wanted to say were stuck in her throat. Shiju drooped its head, its chin rested on its front paws, its leopard body slightly curled up. Its dark brown eyes stared unblinkingly in a certain direction in the depths of the dense jungle. That look was completely different from the usual cute leopard image. Its whole body was shrouded in a thick sense of desolation. Desolation? This kind of emotion should not appear on a young leopard beast. Wasn't it fine just now? Yiqing Luo took quick steps forward and squatted down beside Shiju as her little hand caressed the fur on its back. Little Ju, what's the matter? It sensed its master's aura. Shiju merely twisted its leopard head and took a look at Yiqing Luo before staring blankly towards the front. He still had that desolate look on his face. Yiqing Luo's actions became gentler. She gently asked a few questions. Shijue had no intention of responding. Every time, he would turn his head to look at her, then stare blankly ahead. Yiqing Luo and Shiju's conversation also attracted Qi and Qi Yan's attention. It must be missing its family. After the scarlet flame circled one round, it landed on the ground beside Yiqing Luo. After all, it's still a cub. After leaving its kin for so long, it will definitely miss them. Did it miss its mother? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. He immediately understood. The lush foliage here was indeed very different from the magical beast forest. After seeing the environment here, Shiju would inevitably recall the days when he was with his mother. Yiqing Luo gently patted Shiju's head. Qi Yan and Qi, no matter how much they stayed by its side, it ultimately couldn't be compared to the feeling of being with the mother beast. Star. Chapter 3280. Regarding this, Yiqing Luo didn't know how to comfort it. Only when one person, 3 beasts and 1 soul bead entered the depths of the forbidden grounds, she accompanied Shiju. Just like this, they went deeper. Along the way, there were no accidents or thrilling incidents. There was no sight of any other living creatures. Could it be? In the East Continent for the past hundreds of years, this forbidden grounds had been spread like a legend. The reason why no cultivator was able to leave this place alive. Not because of how dangerous the forbidden grounds was. Just because the energy and aura here was fatal to humans? Those who entered the forbidden grounds not died under the danger, but died under this special energy? No, impossible. This was a forbidden ground with special energy. It was absolutely not as simple as it looked on the surface. There was a high possibility that this was the calm before the storm. Yiqing Luo didn't let down her guard because of this. The facts proved that Yiqing Luo's guess was right. Just as 1 person and 3 beasts were about to reach the depths of the forbidden grounds, she stopped in her tracks. The 3 little fellows beside her also held their breaths. This was a continuous stretch of dense forest. As far as the eye could see, there were large patches of green. From time to time, a breeze blew past. It was very clear. The smell of the forest was brought along with the wind, and at this moment, the smell brought along by the breeze. It was no longer the smell of nature, but the smell of blood. A very strong smell of blood. Not only that, the surrounding air also gradually changed. It was tainted with an obvious austere and dangerous atmosphere. Yiqing Luo's perception was very high. After smelling the strange atmosphere in the air, she immediately sensed the dangerous atmosphere in the surroundings. She congealed her senses and used her mental power. Through the blood contract with the war pet, she said solemnly, "You all adjust your body shape and hide on me first." The 3 little fellows didn't hesitate at all. Even Chiao Jiao, who usually liked to sing a different tune, also cooperated, and turned into a magpie-sized red bird, shrinking on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. When the 3 little fellows had just turned into a palm size and nested on Yiqing Luo's body, Yiqing Luo's ears suddenly twitched as her expression congealed slightly. Roar! A deafening howl of a wild beast was heard. That sound, couldn't tell what kind of wild beast it was. It was as if the entire ground of the forest had been shaken a few times. In the blink of an eye, the howl was already very close. Almost reflexively, Yiqing Luo moved her feet and displayed her footwork. Boom! Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that the ground beneath her feet seemed to have cracked. When he looked up again, he looked at the place where she had been standing. It was already in ruins. Flashes of lightning were still flowing. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as she carefully sized up the lightning on the ruins. What is this thing? How could it cause such great destruction? By the time Yiqing Luo saw clearly what was revealed after the billowing smoke and dust dispersed, she couldn't help but drew in a breath of cold air. They saw. At the center of the ruins was a beast with 4 limbs on the ground. Its entire body was covered in green fur that looked like sharp blades, and electricity flowed through its body. That beast was even bigger than Chi-Chi's combat form. The reason why people couldn't tell what kind of beast it was that beast looked like a bear, but it wasn't a bear at the same time. It looked like a lion. Chapter 3281. That's right, this beast not only looked so unrecognizable, it also had an extra eye. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but think of Erling Shun's howling celestial dog. However, the howling celestial dog looked much better than this beast. This was the first time Yiqing Luo saw this kind of beast. From the aura of the beast and the murderous intent in its 3 vicious eyes. It came with bad intentions. The first creature she met in the forbidden area. But it was a hostile relationship. Yiqing Luo sighed. She didn't even know what kind of beast it was. She didn't know how many other unknown beasts there were in the forbidden area. If they really wanted to fight, then she might not be able to take advantage. Here there is such a beast. Qi Yan's voice came from between the hair. Yiqing Luo immediately asked, "Do you know what kind of beast it is?" Qi Yan's tone was dignified. Generally speaking, ordinary beasts, after seeing this sacred beast and Little White, will be deterred by the majesty of the sacred beast, and will definitely not dare to come forward and find trouble with you. But this beast is different. Qi Yan explained. This is a variant of the magical beast. We call it demonic beast. It is similar to the meaning of falling into the devil's way. This demonic beast is the devil's way of the magical beast. Demonic beast? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. How can there be a demonic beast here? Wasn't the aura in the forbidden area the best atmosphere for magical beasts to recuperate and advance? How could it breed a demonic beast? Qi Yan shook its head, its tone became heavier. If it is an ordinary demonic beast, it is easy for you to deal with it. But what's worse is that this demonic beast happens to be the most powerful and fast among the demonic beasts. 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast. Hearing this name, Chi exclaimed. 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast? There is actually a 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast here? Even a silly little guy like Chi had heard of the name 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast? How confident are you two against the 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast? Yiqing Luo asked doubtfully. This question immediately made Qi Yan angry. Stupid human. Are you questioning the strength of this sacred beast? This sacred beast is the dignified vermilion bird. It's just a small demonic beast. This sacred beast doesn't even put it in my eyes, okay? Oh. Yiqing Luo replied expressionlessly. Then, I'll leave this Tong Tian beast to you. Qi Yan's proud little head suddenly drooped down again. Its sharp beak poked Yiqing Luo's neck and said in a bad mood. Isn't it all because you stupid human being is so weak? After forming a contract with you, this sacred beast and Little White's strength will be suppressed because of this. If this holy beast had a third of the strength I had during my prime, let alone one 3-eyed heavenly beast, even if there were 10 or 100 of them, this holy beast would only be able to move its mouth. Saying so much doesn't change the fact that you can't deal with this beast now. Yiqing Luo rudely interrupted Qi Yan's arrogance. The scarlet flame was so angry that it flapped its wings and cried out. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about Qi Yan's anger, but pondered over what Qi Yan said earlier. From Qi Yan's mouth he probably knew. The 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast was very powerful. So powerful that even the current Qi Yan or Chi didn't have the confidence to win. Chapter 3282. Master, it's not that little Flaming and Chi can't deal with the 3-eyed heavenly beast, but 3-eyed heavenly beasts don't act alone. Chi moved closer to her head and explained in a serious manner. It's not a demonic beast that moves alone. Yiqing Luo muttered this sentence in a low voice as her slender brows suddenly tightened. Such a ferocious beast. And they were acting in groups? Was there still a way out for them? Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched as she sharply scanned the surroundings of the lush forest. She was vigilant to prevent the other 3-eyed heavenly beasts from sneaking up on her. So, once Little Flaming and Chi start fighting, the other 3-eyed heavenly beasts will rush over to help. Chi-Chi's ears drooped as she put on a guilty look. It's not that Chi can't beat these beasts, but Master said to leave the forbidden area within 2 days. If we fight, we won't be able to solve the problem in 2 days. Yiqing Luo. So ferocious? After fighting for 2 days and 2 nights, they still couldn't decide the winner? Wasn't this a little too ferocious? Yiqing Luo stroked Chi-Chi's little head and comforted. After all, this is not our territory, let's try not to fight. But they hadn't met any danger along the way. Why did a three-eyed heavenly beast suddenly appear and cause trouble? There were no signs of magical beasts living in groups around here, so there was no reason to offend them by trespassing on their territory. Judging from the dangerous aura brought by the wind earlier, this three-eyed heavenly beast must have come looking for them. Roar! The three-eyed heavenly beast stared at Yiqing Luo and let out an incomprehensible howl. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows and calmed herself down. She squinted her eyes and said calmly, "Three-eyed heavenly beast? Since it's a mutated magical beast, it should be able to speak human language. It shouldn't be difficult for you." The three-eyed heavenly beast's ferocious eyes turned cold as its murderous aura intensified. It opened its mouth wide and revealed its sharp fangs. Its scarlet tongue licked its mouth from time to time. It looked like it was staring at its prey and was about to swallow it whole. If it were anyone else, he might have been frightened by the three-eyed heaven-reaching beast's appearance and begged for mercy. But Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change. She only raised her eyebrows and was extremely calm. "Not willing to talk? Very well, then I have no interest in wasting my time with you." Saying that, Yiqing Luo circled around the three-eyed heavenly beast and moved forward. Her speed was not slow. However, the three-eyed heavenly beast was simply too big. Yiqing Luo had walked for more than 10 steps, but had yet to bypass Skylink God. With great difficulty, he walked out of the range of the Skirich God's body. Suddenly, a black shadow descended from the sky. Yiqing Luo took 2 steps back. Pa! The black figure fell heavily to the ground. That was the tail of the three-eyed heavenly beast, blocking Yiqing Luo's way. Yiqing Luo halted her footsteps as she calmly glanced sideways at the Tong Tian beast. "Do you intend to have a talk?" Tong Tian beast slowly moved its sturdy long legs and turned around, facing Yiqing Luo. That pair of sharp beastly eyes reflected the girl's calm and indifferent face. It slowly kept its fangs and a hoarse and sharp voice came from its mouth. "Human, aren't you afraid of me?" Sure enough, it was a demonic beast that could speak human language. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. "What's your motive?" A pack of demonic beasts had inexplicably rushed over to look for her. If it was only because it smelled the scent of a human and wanted to treat her as food. Chapter 3283. Apparently, the heavenly beast did not treat her as an ordinary person. The three-eyed heavenly beast stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo as if she was a tiny ant that could be squashed to death at any time. "Human, you are very smart," it said in a hoarse voice. Yiqing Luo smiled slightly. "So tell me your purpose." The tone of the heavenly beast rose slightly and became slightly sharp. "This place does not belong to you. Either leave or die." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "Are you threatening me?" The feeling of being threatened by a demonic beast. It was really refreshing. "No." The heavenly beast bared its sharp fangs. "Human, I don't want to waste time with you." Yiqing Luo tilted her head and laughed mockingly. "Unfortunately, I came in here and if I can't achieve my purpose, I will be very unwilling to leave." Her voice revealed a trace of lightness. When the three-eyed heavenly beast heard this, the murderous intent in its eyes became even more obvious. The three-eyed heavenly beast raised its paw and landed heavily on the ground. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The forest shook. There was also a faint sound of rubble flowing. But this series of actions, the influence which it caused, didn't make Yiqing Luo's expression change at all. Not only that, Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a mocking smile. It seemed to be mocking the three-eyed heavenly beast for overestimating itself. Three-eyed heavenly beast. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth slowly and accurately called out its species. Her smile was full of ridicule and calmness. "The fact that you are talking to me means that you are also afraid of my strength. After all, ordinary humans can't possibly stand here unscathed, so don't act arrogantly in front of me." The three-eyed heavenly beast's eyes turned cold as it stomped its paw on the ground angrily. Towards its anger, Yiqing Luo didn't have any reaction. Instead, her lips curled into an enchanting arc. "Let me guess, for a mutated demonic beast like you, and your strength isn't bad, You want to force me to leave this place? Yiqing Luo paused for a moment and raised her eyebrows. So, are you trying to stop me from coming into contact with something, or are you afraid that I will ruin your plan? This sentence, Yiqing Luo intentionally slowed down the speed of her speech, as she spoke out word by word. Demonic beasts were demonic beasts after all. He couldn't compare to others. After Yiqing Luo's words left her mouth, the three-eyed heaven beast couldn't hide the emotions in its eyes at all. Its beast eyes were filled with malice, as though it was going to tear Yiqing Luo apart anytime. This indicated that what Yiqing Luo had guessed was right. She really had the constitution of stirring up trouble at any time. Even in this forbidden area where humans were not allowed to enter, it would also cause a huge incident. There was no one else like him. Humans are really cunning. The three-eyed sky-reaching beast was infuriated, and its eyes were filled with rage. Its body flashed, releasing flowing lightning all over its body, and it let out a howl. Pa pa pa. The electric current struck down. From the area under Yiqing Luo's feet, the ground was like a spider web as it spread out. Following that, the ground began to crack. Yiqing Luo's feet felt light. The ground cracked open, letting her body fall. Are you going to make a move now? Looks like I was right. Yiqing Luo's chuckling voice was mixed with an appalling coldness. She tiptoed and her body floated lightly in midair. With a flip, she landed on a big tree. Chapter 3284. The three-eyed heavenly beast's eyes flashed coldly when it saw Yiqing Luo making her move. It seemed to be disdainful. It lifted its claws and stomped hard on the ground again. Immediately, it raised its neck and let out a sharp roar. His sharp fangs shone through the gaps between the lush leaves of the tree. Under the refraction of light, they emitted a cold glint. The moment its claws landed on the ground, a powerful and terrifying aura broke out. Endless electric currents flowed endlessly on its huge body. Along with its roar, the surrounding trees were uprooted by a strong gust of wind. Bang bang bang. There were a few sounds of profound energy colliding. The wind blades released by Yiqing Luo were all blocked by this gust of wind. Not only were they blocked, the three-eyed heavenly beast's body was covered with electric currents as it rushed towards Yiqing Luo at an extremely fast speed. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes flashed. A demonic beast is indeed powerful. She moved her feet and her body was like a flame, flashing away from the attack of the heavenly beast. Roar! Roar roar roar! The heavenly beast's claws scratched the ground a few times after Yiqing Luo dodged its attack, giving out a warning growl. A pair of sharp beast eyes flashed with a sharp murderous aura. Are we going to get serious? Yiqing Luo tilted her head, her long and narrow eyes raised up with a faint smile. Her gaze swept to Qi Yan. How many heavenly beasts will join the battle this time? The three-eyed heavenly beast and she could not reach an agreement. In the end, there was only one outcome left. Either you die or I live. Three-eyed heavenly beasts usually form a team of 10. Qi Yan replied. There are at least 2 teams of heavenly beasts nearby. That was, at least more than 20. One heavenly beast was already so terrifying. If there were another 20, she really could not continue to act tough anymore. Not only 2 teams, if the few of us join the battle, it is likely to attract more three-eyed heavenly beasts and even other demonic beasts. Qi Yan looked at Yiqing Luo's thoughtful expression, and very kindly added a sentence. Yiqing Luo. A cold song was given to her. Since when were there so many mutated magical beasts? Heaven-defying mutated magical beasts like the three-eyed heaven-reaching beasts appeared in large numbers. Were they buying one and giving the other away? So, are we going to raise our hands and surrender? Yiqing Luo looked at Qi Yan. Surrender? I don't even know how to write the word surrender. Qi Yan flapped his wings and cried out. Stupid human, you are the master of this sacred beast. If you dare to surrender and lose this sacred beast's face, this sacred beast will. I will burn you. Yiqing Luo, if you don't want to surrender, then you might as well be straightforward and give me a way to deal with the heaven-reaching beast. Also, it was a battle pet with a blood contract. Even a saint beast wouldn't be able to bear the consequences of killing its master. While Yiqing Luo and Qi Yan were conversing, the huge body of the three-eyed heavenly beast had rushed to the front of Yiqing Luo in the blink of an eye. The speed was so fast that even Yiqing Luo was secretly amazed. Fortunately, Qi transformed into her battle form in time, and threw Yiqing Luo onto her back. He dodged the attack of the heaven-reaching beast. The huge snow-white tiger beast had a pair of red tiger eyes, which made people shudder. The heaven-reaching beast pounced on empty air. It opened its mouth wide, trying to bite Yiqing Luo to pieces in one fell swoop. After seeing the sudden appearance of the huge white tiger, Chapter 3285. Its gaze wandered back and forth between Qi and Yiqing Luo. No wonder this human is safe and sound here. Qi's limbs were ablaze as it floated in mid-air. The usually adorable and silly Qi. At this moment, the majesty of a sacred beast was fully displayed. A pair of red and enchanting tiger eyes stared at it coldly. I haven't appeared in the beast clan for a long time. Now demonic beasts like you can bully my master? You also know that you haven't appeared for a long time. The heaven-reaching beast didn't have any reaction. It wasn't afraid of the majesty of a sacred beast. It was extremely calm. Now is not the era of you sacred beasts. If you don't want to die here with this human, get out of our territory. F***CK. You lowly demonic beast, what did you say? You lowly magical beasts think you can be compared to this holy beast? Qi Yan couldn't stand the disdain of demonic beasts towards sacred beasts. It immediately fluttered its wings and transformed into its battle form. It spat out a flame at the three-eyed heaven-reaching beast. No matter how long it has been, sacred beasts are sacred beasts and demonic beasts are demonic beasts. You lowly demonic beasts will never be able to surpass sacred beasts. The power of the vermilion bird's flame had been suppressed. It was enough to burn the fur of the heaven-reaching beast into a ball. The heaven-reaching beast let out a painful wail. A pair of sharp eyes stared at Qi Yan with resentment. Qi Yan was emitting the vermilion bird's flame. Its pair of red eyes carried the arrogance of a sacred beast. Little demonic beast, do you really think this sacred beast is afraid of you? Come on. This sacred beast will fight to the death with you. See how this sacred beast beats you until you call me father. Roar. The heaven-reaching beast quickly rolled on the ground. But the flame burning on its body couldn't be extinguished. The sizzling sound of burning quickly engulfed the green fur on the heaven-reaching beast's body. Not long after, the air was filled with the fragrance of roasted meat. Yiqing Luo. Qiao Jiao was indeed Qiao Jiao. It seemed that they had to fight this battle. Yiqing Luo's fingertips turned the glower flame fan. Just as he was about to release his dark force and start the battle mode, a gust of wind blew over. Amidst the rustling of the leaves, he could vaguely hear extremely rhythmic and aggressive footsteps. Not only that, there was also the faint sound of very discordant footsteps. The three-eyed heavenly beast's companions had arrived. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes contracted slightly. Suddenly, a ray of brilliance flashed past. Just as Qi Yan and Qi were about to pounce on the sky-reaching beast that was being burned by the vermilion bird bright fire to prove their majesty as holy beasts, Yiqing Luo suddenly cried out, "Wait!" The two little sacred beasts abruptly stopped their movements. In unison, they turned their heads towards Yiqing Luo. "Come back." Yiqing Luo beckoned and said, "Qi Yan, extinguish the fire." Qi Yan shouted angrily, "Extinguished? This holy beast is going to burn this ungrateful demonic beast to death." Annihilated. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and emphasized her tone. Qi glanced at Qi Yan, then drooped her head and step by step, returned to Yiqing Luo's side. Qi Yan's eyes were about to burst into flames. But it still listened to Yiqing Luo's command, and unwillingly waved its wings to extinguish the fire on the heaven-reaching beast. It flew to the branch at the side and raised its neck high, showing a sulky look at Yiqing Luo. The fire was extinguished, but it still couldn't save the heaven-reaching beast's fur. Chapter 3286. Vermilion Bird Sacred Beast. A hoarse, sharp, Murderous voice spat out from the mouth of the heavenly beast. It opened and closed. He bared his cold fangs, dripping a viscous liquid. There was no need for Qi Yan to explain. Yi Qingluo also knew that the liquid secreted from the mouth of the heavenly beast was absolutely poisonous. The heavenly beast's resentful eyes stared fiercely in the direction of Qi Yan. The flames on its body soared, and the huge claws on the ground dug the ground bit by bit. Little demon beast, do you want to challenge this sacred beast's power? This sacred beast will fulfill your wish. The provoked Qi Yan flapped its wings and set off a raging flame. Even if this sacred beast is not at its peak, it's easy to abuse you. Qi Yan. Yi Qingluo spoke again, glancing at Qi Yan standing on the branch. Qi Yan was full of anger, and the flames shrouding its body were extinguished bit by bit. But its pair of burning eyes stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo believed. If it wasn't because of the blood contract, perhaps. Qi Yan wanted to throw a fire at her. Qi Yan stopped its fire because of Yi Qingluo's order. But it didn't mean that the heavenly beast would stop its attack. All the hair on his body was charred black. It couldn't wait to pluck out Qi Yan's phoenix feathers. For the group of demon beasts who lived in the forbidden area isolated from the world for hundreds of years, the so-called four great sacred beasts were only a distant legend. Especially now. The beast power on Qi Yan and Qi was obviously far from the legend. In their own territory. Even if they were sacred beasts, so what? The heavenly beast suddenly stopped digging the ground with its claws. Murderous aura broke out at this moment. Master. Qi widened its eyes and bit Yi Qingluo's sleeve. Heavenly beast really wants to kill Little Flame. If Master doesn't let Little Flame do it, Little Flame will die. Yi Qingluo's face was still calm. Under Qi-Chi's urgent cry, the heavenly beast turned into lightning and went straight to Qi Yan on the branch. Green light flickered. Bam! Majestic strength Qi spread out mightily. The enormous body of the sky-reaching beast seemed to have collided with something, resulting in a loud collision sound. With a muffled groan, Jiao Tutu's body leaped into the air and landed steadily on the ground. It raised its head high, took a look at Qi Yan, and immediately turned its gaze towards Yi Qingluo. Seeing the girl close the glowing red glowing flame fan, the anger in his eyes deepened. At the moment of its attack, Scarlet Flame spread its wings and fled to another branch. Just as it was about to catch up with the mountain, a powerful dark force flew over from the right. The dark force formed a barrier that blocked it. Damn humans. He really wanted to bite her into pieces. The gaze of the heaven-reaching beast became even more ruthless and terrifying. However, under this kind of gaze, the young girl's expression did not change. She lazily waved the devouring flame fan at her fingertips and said, "Tong Tian beast, just because I asked my little companions to stop doesn't mean that you can attack them." The girl's voice was very light, and there was not the slightest fluctuation in her emotions. It was like a calm lake, without a single ripple. Roar! The heaven-reaching beast let out an angry, warning growl. Yi Qingluo smiled, but that smile did not reach the bottom of her eyes. "Tong Tian beast, we are preparing to leave the forbidden area. Are you sure you still want to fight?" "Master." When Qi heard this sentence, his drooping ears instantly stood up. Even his white tail stood up high. Chapter 3287. Yi Qingluo rubbed its big head and corrected it. "We'll leave the forbidden area together." But Qi panicked. Although their master's purpose of entering the forbidden area had not been precisely mentioned between them, but wasn't it very clear in their hearts? The purpose had not been achieved. Master was about to leave? Then what should they do? Qi-Chi's heart was completely submissive to Yi Qingluo. No matter how many words it had in its heart, it couldn't say them out. But Qi Yan was different. Qi Yan, who had always been used to doing things his own way, immediately rushed to Yi Qingluo, scarlet eyes, staring at Yi Qingluo. "Leave? We've come all the way here and you say leave? Stupid human, this sacred beast will never leave with you." The atmosphere was tense between the human and the two beasts. On the other hand, the murderous Tong Tian beast, upon hearing Yi Qingluo's words, instantly dissipated. It looked warily at the human and two beasts in front of it, listening to their conversation, slowly narrowing its eyes. Chi-Chi's pleading gaze and Chi-Yan's fiendish accusatory gaze. Yi-Ching Luo's attention was always on the beast. Naturally, she didn't miss the action of the beast. Her lips curved imperceptibly, as if she didn't listen to Chi-Yan's words at all, staring fixedly at the beast. Or do you want to fight? Humans have always been cunning, the beast said coldly. I don't believe you. Yi-Ching Luo shrugged. No one has entered this forbidden area for hundreds of years. I'm here just to follow a challenge. I'll leave the forbidden area as long as I pick the gold magnetic spirit grass. The beast's eyes flickered slightly. Its gaze on Yi-Ching Luo also eased up a little. Yi-Ching Luo hid the deep meaning in her eyes. Sure enough, her guess was right. No matter how she ridiculed in her heart, her face was still calm and indifferent. The beast pondered for a moment and looked towards the southwest direction. The gold magnetic spirit grass is over there. Leave immediately after you pick it. Yi-Ching Luo. What a surprise. The connecting heaven beast was extremely cooperative. She didn't need to spend any more time to find the location of the gold magnetic spirit grass. Yi-Ching Luo smiled as her eyes squinted. Many thanks, I'll slip away now. With that, she hooked Chi-Chi's neck and waved to Chi-Yen. Let's go. Chi-Yen turned his head angrily and refused to listen to her. Yi-Ching Luo didn't continue to persuade him. Hugging Chi-Chi, he stroked Shiju, who had been silent and in a daze from beginning to end. Turning around, he walked in the direction the Tong Tian beast had pointed. Chi-Chi's ears and tail drooped. He looked back 3 times with every step. He wanted to stay, but he couldn't resist his master's orders. Shiju also had a posture of turning back 3 times with every step. However, it wasn't because he wanted to stay behind and fight against the heaven-reaching beast. Shiju's gaze was looking in the direction of the depths of the forest from start to end, very dazed. 1 man and 2 beasts left just like that. Scarlet flame fluttered on the branch for a while. Seeing that Yi-Ching Luo really didn't wait for it, or had the intention to obey it. It was so angry that it let out a clear cry. Then its scarlet eyes glared fiercely at the heaven-reaching beast. Spreading its wings, it flew towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. Chi-Yen was still extremely angry, although it followed Yi-Ching Luo's footsteps, but it was still angry with Yi-Ching Luo and didn't want to get close. Yi-Ching Luo headed straight towards the southwest direction. Her footsteps were light and brisk. Very soon, 1 man and 3 beasts were far away from the place where the heaven-reaching beast was. About a few hundred meters away. Yi-Ching Luo slowly retracted the perception that she had released. She stopped in her tracks. Chapter 3288. Chi-Chi's eyes were full of hesitation. The pitiful look was lovable. Shiju didn't have any extra eyes, just stared at Yi-Ching Luo blankly, but its mind had long been empty. 1 person and 2 beasts stopped. Chi-Yen hovered in the air, holding back a belly full of anger. Seeing Yi-Ching Luo stop, it swooped down, staring at her and said angrily, "Stupid human. A heaven-reaching beast scared you like this? Don't you believe in the strength of this sacred beast? Just a mediocre demonic beast. This sacred beast can fight 10. It was so angry that it kept howling, circling around Yi-Ching Luo. The vibrating wings brought up the surrounding air, set off a gust of hurricane, blowing Yi-Ching Luo's hair wildly. This sacred beast making a contract with a coward like you is really the worst choice this sacred beast has made since its birth. Chi-Yen was obviously very angry. The words in its heart, completely without thinking, flew out. This sacred beast really thought that you would be that person. Little White, you simply recognized the wrong person. How could a rookie like her be that person? Chi-Yen. Chi-Chi suddenly roared. The clear and crisp voice of a child had an irresistible deterrent force. This roar brought Chi-Yen back to his senses from his anger. After meeting Chi-Chi's warning eyes, Chi-Yan's sharp beak opened and closed a bit, as if it wanted to say something. Finally, it snorted heavily and turned its head away. Chi-Yan's words under rage. Yi-Ching Luo heard it very clearly, coupled with Chi-Chi's rare low roar. Yi-Ching Luo couldn't help but be curious. Who was the vet person Chi-Yin was talking about? In the beginning, Chi-Chi took the initiative to find her and become her battle pet. Although Chi-Yin disliked her in every way, but in July, it took the initiative to choose the blood contract. This kind of blood contract, which handed over its life to her. Both of them were ancient sacred beasts. High and mighty, incomparably noble. It wasn't that she hadn't thought about why the sacred beast would choose her. It was just that she had been deliberately avoiding this question. Because she knew. If Chi-Chi or Chi-Yin wanted to say, from the beginning, they would tell her. If you don't want to say it. Once the words were made clear, the relationship between her and Chi-Chi or Chi-Yin was likely to change. In fact, even her life was going to change. Therefore, she didn't ask or think too deeply about it. Today, under the extreme wrath of Chi-Yin, Yiqing Luo finally understood some hidden reason. Because he had mistaken her for someone else? Master. Chi-Chi called out to her in a low and crisp voice. There was a hint of caution in his voice. Since when did her Chi-Chi become so cautious around her? Yiqing Luo closed her eyes slightly, and when she opened them again, the corners of her lips had already curled up into a slight smile. Reaching out, she caressed Chi-Chi's head and smiled warmly. It's all right. I understand how you guys feel. Yiqing Luo's smile made Chi-Chi stunned. Its tiger eyes stared blankly at Yiqing Luo's smiling eyes. Yiqing Luo continued. You should believe me. Since I've entered the forbidden grounds, I will not return empty-handed. In the end, she did not choose to forcefully get to the bottom of it. She knew very well that Chi-Chi would answer her as long as she asked. But she didn't want to see Chi-Chi in a difficult situation. Then, pretend that she didn't listen carefully to Chi-Yan's reprimand. Chapter 3289. Yiqing Luo waved to Chi-Yan, who was still twisting his little head with a "I'm still angry" look. Be good, the three of you, change back to your pet form first. Chi-Chi's body swayed and turned into a snow-white kitten, leaping onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Shiju was absent-minded, but it still obeyed Yiqing Luo's orders. Chi-Yan swung its long neck and snorted heavily. Its mouth expressed its disdain. But its body was very honest as it turned into a little bird and burrowed into Yiqing Luo's hair. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's figure quickly flashed and sneaked into the lush forest. Holding her breath, condensing her chi. Hiding in the forest was her best skill. There was no need to worry about moving the surrounding vegetation and making a sound, which would attract the attention of other creatures in this forbidden area. Because wherever Yiqing Luo went, there was no sound at all. But after a while, this one person and three beasts returned in a forward state. Yiqing Luo used her mental power to explain to her three companions. The reason why I said that I want to leave in front of the heavenly beasts is not because I'm afraid of wasting time, but if we were to make a move, those heavenly beasts hidden in the surroundings would immediately rush up. From the sound of their footsteps, it's not as simple as two teams of beasts. You and Chi-Chi can face most of them, but Shiju and I are very likely to have an accident. If we really fight, we won't be able to gain any advantage. Chi-Chi knows that Master is the smartest. Chi-Chi put on a look of infatuation. Master is right. Everything Master says is right. Chi-Yan humph. Also, didn't you notice that the beast seems to be eager for us to leave the forbidden area? Yiqing Luo's charming eyes curved slightly as she smiled slyly. Chi-Chi tilted its little head. Seems. Yes. Yiqing Luo nodded. Especially when I suggested to leave. It didn't even take revenge for its fur being burnt by Chi-Yan, and wholeheartedly didn't want to be entangled with us. I don't think it's afraid of me or you two sacred beasts. If we ask it before contacting me, its reaction is very likely. My guess is that this bunch of heaven-reaching beasts might be planning something. If we continue to tangle with them and delay them, our plans will be ruined. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. She had another feeling, but she didn't say it. She had a feeling that the heaven-reaching beast seemed to know who she was. He really didn't want her to continue staying in the forbidden land. It was also because of this feeling. In the end, she told him about the bet she made with Hao Nanren outside the forbidden area. As expected, This confirmed her suspicions. The reaction of the heaven-reaching beast told it. The heaven-reaching beast knew about the bet between her and Hao Nanren. How could the demonic beasts in the Forbidden Land know what was happening outside? Therefore Yi Qingluo was suspicious. That was why he was acting like this. Sneak back and find the truth. Qi Yan's arrogant head finally turned towards Yi Qingluo. After analyzing it, the heaven-reaching beast's attitude was indeed strange. 1 man and 3 beasts. After the explanation, the atmosphere eased up. At this moment, they stealthily hid in the darkness where they had fought with the heaven-reaching beast. Just as he approached, Yi Qingluo's expression congealed slightly as she immediately stopped in her tracks, concealing all her presence. Only to see, at the place where they had been standing earlier, it was surrounded by at least 53-eyed heavenly beasts. Those gigantic heaven-reaching beasts were imposing and awe-inspiring, their bodies flowing like lightning. Chapter 3290. One by one, the Tong Tian beasts roared and made all sorts of noises. Yi Qingluo couldn't understand the beast language, but the 3 companions beside her understood. Hence, Chi-Chi successfully took on the role of translator. In the middle of the Tong Tian beasts was Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast. In front of it stood 2 larger but obviously old-looking Tong Tian beasts. The old Tong Tian beast asked, "Are you sure that the human has left?" Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast snorted coldly. "Of course, didn't you see her leaving with your own eyes?" The old Tong Tian beast sighed. "The plan is at the end and we can end it soon. We can't make any mistakes, otherwise, our demonic beast clan will be annihilated." "When will that thing wake up?" Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast asked impatiently. The old Tong Tian beast drooped his head. "There's no specific time. If that thing can wake up soon, then we won't need to be controlled by others." Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast's eyes were filled with killing intent. The old Tong Tian beast asked worriedly, "Are you sure that the human has really left? The people over there said very clearly that we absolutely can't let that human collide with that thing." Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast said, "Haven't the people over there investigated very clearly? That human entered the forbidden zone because of the challenge. She will leave after picking the gold magnetic spirit grass." A group of heaven-reaching beasts were chattering nonstop in their beast language. These beast language, through Chi-Chi's translation, fell into Yi Qingluo's ears. That thing? The people over there? Her guess was right. The Tong Tian beasts indeed had some kind of plan. To urge her to leave. To prevent her from spoiling their plans. And this group of demonic beasts who lived in the Forbidden Zone, isolated from the outside world. There was indeed another person behind the scenes, manipulating them from behind. These big pieces of information made Chi-Chi shake her little head as she excitedly stuck out her tongue at Qi Yan. "Little Yan Yan, see. Master is so smart, retreating in order to advance. This is called a strategy." Qi Yan snorted coldly as he turned his head away arrogantly. "Stop fooling around," Yi Qingluo said as she patted Chi-Chi's head. "There's someone." "Someone?" One Chi-Chi immediately turned her head and looked in the direction of her master's gaze. A figure could be vaguely seen walking out from the group of heaven-reaching beasts. That person was shrouded in a black cloak. Even his face was covered by a black veil, making it impossible to see his appearance. "Heh, idiot." As soon as that person appeared, he sneered at Jiao Tutu's heaven-connecting beast. His tone was cold and full of ridicule. "You don't understand how treacherous and cunning that scoundrel is. If I don't see that scoundrel leave the forbidden area with my own eyes, I won't be able to feel at ease." The black-robed man's attitude caused Jiao Tuatu's heaven-reaching beast to show disgust in its eyes. However, it tried its best to endure it. Facing the black-robed man, Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast spoke in the human language. "He's just an ordinary human being with 2 sacred beasts by his side. He doesn't even dare to fight with me. How can you be so concerned about him? Don't look down on that guy. Hurry up and get your men to chase after that scoundrel. We must ensure that the scoundrel has really left this place," the black-robed man ordered sternly. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Jiao Tutu's Tongtian beast refused. There were 2 sacred beasts by that human's side. Even its feathers had been burned by the vermilion bird. It was unwilling to let its companions chase after him. If vermilion bird found out. Chapter 3291. The black-robed man sneered. His sharp and hoarse voice was extremely ear-piercing. Good. Not going to chase? If you spoil the palace lord's plan, the demonic beast clan. Just wait to die. Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast suddenly raised its head. Its beast eyes were sinister as it stared at the black-robed man. The raging anger in its eyes was like it was about to ignite. The black-robed man was indifferent. His breath was filled with a mocking coldness. The heaven-reaching beast was furious and unwilling, but it couldn't do anything to the human in front of it. It gritted its teeth and used beast language to order the heaven-reaching beast next to it. Go. Follow that human and watch her leave. Then come back to report. The heaven-reaching beast roared, indicating that it accepted the order. Immediately, its long claws moved, and it dashed towards the southwest direction. Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast's eyes were sinister. Now are you satisfied? The black-robed man snorted coldly, arrogantly walking among the huge heaven-reaching beasts. Yi Qingluo, who was hiding in the dark, the moment she saw the black-robed man appear, the corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. She wasn't unfamiliar with the black-robed man. Just hearing the black-robed man's voice, she recognized him. Feng Ling. The black-robed man was Feng Ling. She didn't expect Feng Ling would actually appear here. This was the forbidden area of the East Continent. Didn't Qi Yan say that in this forbidden land, it was fatal for humans? Why did Feng Ling look like she was safe and sound? Looking at the interaction between Feng Ling and the heaven-reaching beast, the heaven-reaching beast had a tolerant attitude towards Feng Ling obviously. The person behind the heaven-reaching beast was related to the Palace of Darkness. Palace of Darkness. The awakening of that thing. Could it be that the Palace of Darkness was thinking of? A thought flashed past her mind. Yi Qingluo's eyes flashed. A trace of biting cold flashed past her eyes. If it was really like what she thought, then this time, she must interfere and destroy the plan of the Palace of Darkness. Just as she was pondering, Yi Qingluo suddenly sensed a slight noise behind her. Her ears twitched. She was about to use her footwork to escape, but it was too late. A cold voice came from behind him. Who is it? This voice was like a mechanical voice, rigid, and without any fluctuation of words. Compared to Mo Yuying's mechanical and lifeless voice, this voice was even more soulless. Yi Qingluo knew that since she had been discovered, she couldn't hide anymore. She calmly stood up from the dark and slowly turned around. Her half-squinted eyes reflected the scene behind her. In front of him were 5 tall men in black armor. Their expressions were indifferent, and their eyes were lifeless. They looked like 5 statues standing before him. Yi Qingluo was very close. From these 5 men, he could clearly feel a bone-chilling coldness. Yi Qingluo frowned slightly. When he saw the 5 men, Yi Qingluo obviously felt a shapeless pressure spreading in the air. Who was this person? He had actually appeared on her body without a sound. Until they got close, she could barely make out their movements. No, to be more precise, if it wasn't for the sound of friction when they approached her, she absolutely couldn't sense the approaching of these 5 men. At least for now, facing these 5 men, she couldn't sense their presence at all. These 5 men, who on earth were they? They were actually so terrifying. Yi Qingluo held her glower flame fan in vigilance and immediately retreated backwards. She retreated out of the attacking range of the 5 men. Chapter 3292. The alluring red figure was like the setting sun, flashing past her eyes. Who is it? Feng Ling cried out in alarm. Following the voice, she looked towards the direction of the figure. She saw the girl she hated the most, dressed in a long red dress, against the light that shone through the gap, standing on the tree branch. The red dress fluttered, the green color fluttered. The girl's face was like a peach blossom, a beauty that could topple a city. especially that pair of eyes that seemed to bear thousands of assimilation, flowing with countless flirtatious colors. Fengling had always known that Yiqing Luo was very beautiful, and that kind of beauty was soul-stirring, not daring to blaspheme. But every time she saw Yiqing Luo, she still couldn't help but be awed by Yiqing Luo's suffocating charm. Especially now, seeing such beauty, she only felt endless hatred spreading in her heart. Because of Yiqing Luo. Because of Yiqing Luo, she became like this. Fengling's hatred was not concealed at all. The person who was hated curled her pink lips, calmly met that pair of eyes, which were filled with hatred, and smiled lightly. What a coincidence, I didn't expect to see you here. As she spoke, Yiqing Luo tilted her head. Her long and narrow eyes, because of this action, looked even deeper and more demonic. Should I say that we are fated? Or should I say that we are enemies on a narrow road? Fengling's body tensed up. The two eyes under the black veil stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. That hoarse and sharp voice, as if it had been chased by a saw, was very ear-piercing. You really didn't leave. Good, very good. Since you insist on coming back to die, I will let you. Never leave this place. Fengling's hands clenched into fists. Her face was extremely sinister. Her hands, which were raised on her waist, were tightened because of the agitation. The black robe was pulled open, revealing a trace of skin. Yiqing Luo just took a glance, and the expression in her eyes changed immediately. That glance made her shocked, because that small part of Fengling's skin was covered with patches of green and red pitted marks. It looked extremely disgusting. Yiqing Luo's gaze quickly shifted to Fengling's face. Sure enough, under the black veil, although it was not clear, one could still vaguely see that Fengling's face was also covered in green and red marks. What was going on? What kind of mark was this? Wind Chime's face and body. Could it be that they had all become so ghastly? Ah. No one is allowed to look. I forbid you to look. Fengling was aware of Yiqing Luo's line of sight. She suddenly went crazy and quickly pulled up her black robe to cover her skin. But because of this overbearing action, he pulled his black robe to cover the place which Yiqing Luo was looking at earlier, but the other side was exposed. Those potholes, traces of green and red, were clearly exposed in front of Yiqing Luo's eyes. Fengling became even crazier. Her face was contorted and she kept roaring. His two hands were desperately pulling on his body. The more impatient he was, the more he wanted to conceal himself. The black robe on her body and the black veil on her face became even more entangled. His frenzied appearance was very much like that of a violent beast. After going berserk for half an instance's time, Fengling simply tore off the black robe on her body, no longer concealing herself. On her body, there was no part of her skin that was intact, no matter if it was her face or the exposed skin. All of them were densely packed marks. It was so disgusting that he almost vomited. This was simply more terrifying than disfigurement. Chapter 3293. Her face was ferocious. Her facial features were distorted, and the potholes on her face were squeezed even more clearly. I've been completely ruined by you. You're very happy, aren't you? Fengling slowly cupped her face and laughed maniacally. You made me lose my face, lose everything. I can no longer snatch Brother D away. You're very proud, you're very happy, aren't you? She laughed and laughed as tears rolled down her cheeks. Looking at Fengling's crazed look, it was obvious that she had lost her mind. Yiqing Luo expressed that there was no fluctuation in her heart. She even wanted to laugh. Fengling's accusation also made her feel very amused. Yiqing Luo spread her arms and slowly jumped down from the branch, landing in front of Fengling. Her wide sleeves fluttered down like a butterfly spreading its wings. It was incomparably gorgeous. This scene caused the expression on Fengling's face to become even more twisted. Fengling, was it me who ruined you or you who ruined yourself? Yiqing Luo's eyes were calm as she spoke. The shock of Fengling's disfigurement also disappeared under Fengling's accusation. She curled her lips coldly. And correction, don't say it as if you could snatch Oxian away before you were disfigured. Kacha. This sentence completely broke Fengling's taut thread. She raised her hands stiffly, bent them and hugged her head as a deafening roar erupted from her mouth. Aha! Following Fengling's crazy roar, with her as the center, the ground began to ripple like the waves of the sea. Even in the air, there were layers of ripples. Endless energy surged and rolled. Just as this force was about to strike Yiqing Luo moved her 5 fingers. The glower flame fan drew a bright red light and formed a barrier that enveloped her. The lush trees were uprooted. The flying sand and stones were horrifying. The surrounding heaven-reaching beasts, under this energy, embedded their sharp claws deep into the ground and barely avoided being blown away by the strong wind. In the barrier, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and stared at Fengling, who was surging with energy, secretly surprised. If her memory served her right, Fengling should be completely without any profound energy left. She purposely returned the butterfly saint technique to the palace of gloomy darkness. It was to make the butterfly saint technique and wind chime kill each other. How could wind chime still have power? Her plan seemed to have deviated. Stupid human being. What are you doing to anger her? The voice of Qi Yin came from the hair, and its small head popped out. It glanced at Fengling with disdain in its eyes. Didn't I say that the aura of this forbidden land has a special power that is fatal to humans? Yiqing Luo nodded her head. She and those 5 monsters, to be able to stand here, they can't even be considered humans. Qi Yan's sharp mouth pointed to the 5 men who had discovered Yiqing Luo's whereabouts. Especially that woman. In order to stand here, she has paid a great price. Not human? Monster? Perhaps it was because he had heard this word too many times. In Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly surfaced, dead corpse puppet, these 4 words. When these 4 words appeared in her mind, Yiqing Luo quivered. A trace of surprise flashed past her eyes. Right, dead corpse puppet. The Palace of Darkness was the birthplace of the dead corpse puppet. Chapter 3294. Whereas Fengling and those 5 men were able to stand here without any abnormalities. In addition, Fengling had no profound energy, but now she could release a power that even the Tongtian beast could not resist. There was only one possibility. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she stared at Fengling. You have become a corpse puppet. Not only Fengling. The 5 men were also undead corpse puppets. But what made Yiqing Luo suspicious was corpse puppets should have no consciousness, and only knew how to follow the instructions of the person controlling them. But Fengling obviously had her own consciousness. No matter if it was her speech or expression, there was no difference from usual. As for those 5 men, although their speech was mechanical and their eyes were empty, but they had their own consciousness and didn't feel like they were being controlled by someone. Yiqing Luo's words made the raging Fengling's eyes flash with a trace of murderous intent. But very quickly, Fengling didn't have the slightest bit of bashfulness as she raised her head with a sinister smile. Yes, I am a corpse puppet. She gave a few cold laughs as her venomous gaze stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. The strength qi enveloping his body was still rising. Yiqing Luo, your methods to deal with those defective products are useless against me. Fengling sneered. The Palace of Darkness had transformed me into the latest type of corpse puppet, which is also a completed corpse puppet. From Fengling's words, it sounded as though she was extremely proud of herself for becoming a corpse puppet. However, the resentment in her eyes and the unwillingness in her reddened eyes revealed her true thoughts in the bottom of her heart. If it was possible, who would want to become a monster that was neither human nor ghost? She was not human, but she had a human consciousness and human habits. She was invulnerable, impervious to fire and water and didn't feel pain. But after all, she was a human shell. Her body was full of bumps and bruises, which was a ghastly sight. It was the various torture methods that the Palace of Darkness used to test this type of completed corpse puppet. Burning, drowning, burying and even attacking her with all their might. And she couldn't hide or evade. She could only endure one after another. Experiment. She didn't know pain. However, his skin had been destroyed in the many experiments he had been experimenting with. Until the experiment ended. Only then was she released and sent to this forbidden area. From the beginning to the end, she had no right to choose. All of this, it was all thanks to this rascal in front of him. If it wasn't for Yi Qing Luo, if it wasn't for the fact that she had specially released the butterfly saint technique, which she had been torturing for a few days, back to the Anyo Palace, there was no way she could have caught the attention of the palace master, much less become the first batch of experimental subjects. Feng Ling could not recall the scene at that time. After the butterfly Saint Law returned to the Palace of Darkness, she claimed that she had come to the Palace of Darkness as a spy for DMO Xian. The plan to invade the South Waves continent was originally going smoothly. It was because of Feng Ling's interference, secretly passing the news, and revealing the location of the South Continent's base to DMO Xian. That was why the South Billow Continent's plan failed. Moreover, even the person whom the palace master wanted to bring back, the island sage of the godless island, Mo Yuing, was not brought back. In short, the sacred butterfly technique pushed all the blame for the failure of the mission onto Windchime. No matter how much Windchimes tried to explain herself, the loss of power this time caused no one in the Palace of Darkness to believe in her. Although the Palace Lord did not completely believe the Butterfly Saint technique's words. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.